Howdy, folks. Welcome to Adventures in Alberon, our 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons game. I'm Joe, your Dungeon Master, and joining me, as always, we have Matt, Miles, Ali, and Tina. I keep trying to do the hand gesture thing. It'll stop by next week. Super excited to have you guys back. Hope everybody's doing well in this very strange time that we're having. Just a couple of announcements that are pretty cool before we get started. So first of all, because we are at level 10, and because that's really cool, and a lot of your characters have changed quite a bit, we're going to do a new round of Hero Forge characters for everybody. So we're going to do that sometime this weekend, and then somebody who is watching at the end of this stream, or we'll say at the break, we're going to give away a Hero Forge, a custom character. So that will be super cool. We'll give you a keyword to say. Whoever enters it, we will pick somebody from that group, and somebody's going to get one of those things for free. So super cool. Then also, over this time, hi Talon, over this time, we are going to be, since we're not using the actual miniatures that we paint and pull together for most of the sessions, because we're not in person, we're pushing some of that budget over towards our art and some of the stuff that we're going to create. We want to capture some of the cool moments that have happened during the campaign. And so we already we have our first one already commissioned and on the way that has to do with Shay. More of that will be kind of revealed as it gets done. But if you know somebody who does art or creates things in any kind of artistic way, and they're looking to make a little bit of money during this time, send them our way. We pay for all of our art. It's something that's really important because art's work. And it's just a really cool way of kind of seeing some of the characters from Adventures in Alberon in a different style and a different way. And that's going to be pretty cool. And we're going to get to see some of the NPCs that are not necessarily that haven't been seen yet. So that's super cool. Just some very exciting stuff there. We do have a YouTube where all of our old episodes are kind of stored. The episodes go up there on Wednesdays after they air on Friday. So this will be here next Wednesday. And then finally, we have a store. There's been a couple of changes. So the limited edition Adventures in Alberon art shirt is no longer in stores. So that's gone. People who got it, you have it. That's it. Miles, I know you have a sweatshirt. So that's gone. The second one is going to come out, I think, probably at the end of May. Times for shipping and stuff like that are complicated. Matt, I can hear an echo now on yours. The last thing that I wanted, and the last thing I wanted to mention about the store, the only shirt in there right now is the Adventures in Alberon shirt. The Finger Gang one had a weird issue, so I took it down. That'll be up on Sunday, but that's where that is for the moment. But check that out if you have a chance. And that's all that I have for announcements. So we can get right into our recap. The last time that we played, everybody but Gunter and Nilly decided that they would go and check on this supposedly haunted room upstairs in this creepy Victorian inn, the Gentle Repose, placed in the middle of an empty and cavernous undercity in the rough location of the statuary, one of the pillars that has been abandoned and the only one that doesn't really have any structures built around it. While you were investigating this room, Gunter, you believed that perhaps one of the ghosts matched a description of an individual from your past. And sending a 3rd level spell at a ghost and succeeding, you contacted Useful Scott, one of the members of the heist that Gunter had pulled almost 120 years ago, then being known as Tall Graham. The last time that you had seen him, he was banished off the face of Alberon and did not return. You heard just a ghostly voice from across whatever plane that he may be in, and that was it. Gunter, you got drunk and nearly started a brawl with 40 goblins, Heinrich in tow, not necessarily understanding everything that's going on, but playing the part of sort of the helpful fool, just nodding. Gunter, you managed to not start an incredibly upsetting riot that would have been very interesting in terms of the story. But in doing so, you did manage to find perhaps a little bit of work. You were told that there is a key of some kind within the pillar of stairs just past the barricade that is outside. You were told bringing this back to the goblins would result in you being able to see the Kenku named Kevin, who is ever so important to Gunter's quest. You were told that you would be allowed to talk to him on the condition that you return the key. Heinrich, you discovered in sort of interacting with the people around the pillar that this group of tieflings that you have sought for some time has passed through the Undercity and up into Koltaram above.
The glowing pillar, right?
Yes. The glowing pillar is the pillar that a lot of the refugees from Koltaram have actually sort of settled in. They were able to dispel whatever magic or whatever thing had made it glow and have begun to inhabit it. You guys actually haven't gone there yet. You guys were at the Pillar of the People. You briefly went by the Goblin Gables. And that's, I believe, for the most part, where you guys have been. That being said, we ended our last session with Heinrich and Gunter in a deep discussion, talking about various things, kind of trying to make a plan. And as Morwen, you approach, Gunter and Heinrich sort of look at each other and then just peel apart. Yeah, so you're kind of standing there alone, hand in the air. There is this garrison in front of you, and we'll get to that in 1 second. But Gunter and Heinrich, which directions or where are you guys heading?
I think I was going to be heading back to the inn where I thought, oh, wait. Okay, hold on. Mormon, you snuck off to do your own thing anyways, but I didn't know that she had followed, right?
No, you did.
No,
you guys were able to. Gunter could find him.
Told you, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'd just be kind of heading back to the inn to relay all this information to Shay.
All right. Heinrich going back to the gentle repose?
Yeah. So that, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Sounds good. And Gunter, where are you headed?
I'm going to try to get back in touch with Morwen so we can enact phase 2 of the plan.
So just like right about face and just walk right back to Morwen?
No, I'm going to like scope out a spot where like she'd know, given her instincts, where to meet up.
I imagine you being like, follow me, and just like shuffle down like an alleyway or something. Yeah, but like in plain sight of everyone.
All right, Gunter, go ahead and for me make a survival check.
All right. Bust out the old dice. Oh, I don't have my dice rolling tray. Here, I'll use this instead.
Vital.
Are you gonna say your dice rolling dice?
Ooh, nice. That's a 17 plus 5.
Okay, no problem. So from this area around the Pillar of Stairs, there are a number of kind of like broken down structures. There are like ruins of actual buildings, and there are a lot of what look like makeshift barricades created from stone, bits of scrap metal, elements of wood, most of which is kind of rotted away. But looking around, and as you sort of haphazardly peel away from Heinrich and realize that you want to meet up with Morwen, you shift your way sort of towards where the gentle repose is, and you find in this sort of almost reduced to rubble, but the ruins of what looked like a very simple stone hovel of some sort. Mm-hmm. And you find sort of an area that has been mostly eroded away so that you can see just a very shady corner, like a even in this very dim light that's being cast from the elements of fire and very, very few lanterns that sort of dot around the Pillar of Stairs, lighting the way for the garrison. It's like this very shady corner that if you were to kind of lean up into it, you would just sort of see, like the arms and the body. You sort of cloak yourself in shadows. And you would imagine, should Morwen return to the gentle repose, big should, you would very easily be able to see her coming and in whatever way you wish, attract her attention.
I'm going to be like, Morwen!
Morwen, what's your passive perception?
14.
14? Okay. Morwen, you can hear kind of very dimly because Gunter does have to walk about 120 feet away, but it is this cavernous dark space is the Undercity, and so you do hear very faintly this kind of
Fuck that. And I walk away. No, I'll go towards it.
Okay. So you walk through and picking your way through the broken bits of stone towards what, and you're realizing now there are or were streets, areas that are a little bit more free, not from litter and stone, but more from like the remains of foundation. And as you pick your way through trying to find the source of this, you see out in the corner, because he wasn't especially hiding, cloaked across in this slight shadow, the body, the very kind of gaunt, sort of stooped body of Gunter.
Whole familiar body of Gunter.
I mean, you guys sleep together every night, so.
I know it well. That sounded weird.
Yeah, it
Sounded
did.
weird.
Yeah.
So you see Gunter.
I've seen him dead a few times. That's all I meant. Yeah.
You spit in his eye.
I don't know about that still, right?
No, you have no idea that Morwen spit in your eye.
How would you?
You were dead at the time.
Yeah, I was dead.
What? Why are we whispering?
I got a job for it. Mostly for you, actually. It's a job for you.
Hmm?
It's really all just you.
Uh,
But I did the front work, so we'll go splitsies on it. Heinrich needs a little too. He gets like, it's his first time doing it.
I like
I
get a
remember
weird
my
shiver
first
on my walk
time.
back and just kind of like, oh, what the
I'm like, okay. We'll take 3/4, split it between us. He'll take a
What?
quarter. We'll tell him it's a third. Easy peasy. Okay.
How much we get?
Now that we got that out of the way,
How much are we getting paid?
the payment is determinant upon our success as well as how valuable you see certain things.
So how much gold?
You know, there are some things a bit more valuable than gold, I would say. And
You're right. Adventure.
so, anyway, I'm gonna like start walking back while staying out of sight of like the guards who are patrolling.
I'm sorry, are you walking away from me again?
No, I'm like, come with me, come on. Now that you're in on the scheme, so let's go. We're walking back.
I don't know what you haven't told me the scheme.
Yeah, so come on. So we're on the scheme. Let's go. I mean, yeah. And I'm gonna bring her back. I'm gonna point to where I located the dagger in the tower.
Okay. So as you see Gunter kind of gesturing up, you see either on the first or second floor, not terribly far back, maybe 70 feet away from the wall that you guys are facing. Gunter is just sort of pointing at the wall, like right in front of you. Kind of unclear to what he's pointing at, because on this side of this pillar, it is just like bricks and blocks of stone.
I'm like, I need you to get up there and steal the dagger. And whatever else is in there, you can take it, and we'll split that too. But there's a dagger, we gotta get that for some people. And then everything else is fair game.
So is this? It's on the other side of this wall. Is it like one of like the waterfall things? Like, do I walk through it?
You gotta like climb. I don't know. You're good at climbing, right? You climb up there.
How high of a climb is that?
Oh, are you asking me or are you asking Gunter?
I'll ask you.
Something like
Okay. Just kind of giving it an.
so.
I mean, so it's not necessarily a long climb. Morwen, make a perception check as you're sort of looking at where Gunter is indicating.
Passive 14.
Okay. Looking at the structure, there are no windows. I mean, there is no immediately obvious entryway from your vantage point. Gunter, you do know that there is a doorway on the other side of this very large blockade, a garrison that looks like it has, beyond just one larger stone kind of structure that looks like it might be maybe 2 stories and fairly recently built. There are these sort of makeshift blockades, and as you sort of look around, you see goblins, you see some of those actually very much like Virgil, the necklace dwarf that you guys conned your way through using Gunter magic. black bushy beards or large black eyebrows, darker skin, very different than Gunter or even the Anacrean dwarves that you guys met in the Sunrest Islands. But there is like a fair amount of activity over there. Thank you, Talon. And thank you, Kobe. The elements that you do make out with the passive 14, I mean, you could climb this structure. There are perhaps maybe 5 feet tall at their largest stones, some smaller that make up this wall. You could scale it, but you don't necessarily see an entryway anywhere.
I'm going to relay to Morwen also that there's the entry. I'm like, I mean, if you could just climb up because you're good at that, but you could probably sneak around. There's a door. There's just, you gotta go through the guards and stuff. So it's like, sneak or climb, and probably also sneak. So sneak either way. But do you feel like climbing as well? I don't know. That's up to you. I'll guard you down here, and I can help you out. And if we need a distraction, I'll be down here, and I've got some things I can do. Huh?
How
Not a bad
Across all of the Undercity, a chill just kind of emanates through as Gunter says, I have some things I can do.
The gods weep
how
and meteors rain down.
How heavily guarded can I tell that it is? Wait, so
Given-
I'm looking at it. This is like a staircase, right?
So you can't see the staircase, but it is on the other side, so like around the corner. Given Gunter's description, you can imagine it's like about 140 feet away where the staircase begins. And Gunter, you would have relayed, there is this large, like 10-foot across iron doorway. You didn't look very closely at it, so you don't know if it's locked. You don't know if there are handles. You don't know if there's a key. But you did see the doorway.
Okay.
Is this something we have to do immediately? Can I assess the situation a little bit?
I mean,
I want to do a little scouting and watch. I'm not trying to just
I already
through
did
a
the
wall
scouting.
for
It's
a random
It's
dagger
fine. I
and
scouted
no
it
gold.
out. I went in and I got some info from one of the guards, and you should probably watch out for that one too, because pretty strong looking. But you could sneak around. You're good at sneaking.
I'm gonna have to think about this one, Gunter.
I'm gonna put my arm around Morwen, guidance, and be like, take a look over there. Look, we've got a easy route straight through, and I'm gonna bring Morwen up to a discrete vantage point where I can map out an entry route from the wall to the door.
Mormon, are you going with Gunter as he begins to? First of all, he puts one of his arms around the bandages. It's been a little bit since you bathed. The bandage is a little crusty.
Buddy, come on.
I mean, I'm not fully sold on this idea, but I am going to see what he's talking about.
Okay. So, Gunter, in your pick through all of these rooms, you did see a space that does offer a little bit more of a vantage point. And so you lead Morwen through the broken streets and to what looks like at some point maybe like an observation area. And you're seeing now from the space out in front of it, beyond where you've walked, there is sort of like an area that is empty. This was probably the perimeter at one point when this was a more populated area. But you can make your way up. It is going up these stairs, and the stairs are fairly rickety, but picking your way up, you're maybe like 15 feet up off the ground. It does give you a better vantage point, and you can see from this section the western facing wall, which does have this door. Go ahead and either of you could make a perception check, or one of you can make it at advantage.
I'm making a perception check.
Okay, and then are you guys trying to, I'm assuming you guys are trying to be stealthy as well?
Yeah. Stealthy this whole time.
Okay.
I said discreetly.
Yep. No, you did. That's fair. Okay.
I gave you advantage too, so.
Oh, well, wait, do you want to roll?
What's your... I mean...
No, you're...
Yeah, it's the metagaming down a little bit there.
It's your roll. Take the advantage. Take the advantage. Take the guidance. Because that, I'm not the one deciding whether or not to do the thing. You're making the decision there, so you take a look. I already know what's there.
23.
Yeah, there
23, okay.
there we go. You see some. You're gonna see some shiny stuff. That's good.
See some things. All right. So one of the things that you notice as you're going around, there is no like predictable patrol. You stay and you watch for like, we'll call it, 10, 15 minutes, and you give it enough time so that if there were more of like a regular pattern, you would notice. But a few of the things that you do notice, there are decidedly factions here. Everybody who has some sort of investment in the Undercity has sent representatives. At first glance, it looks sort of like United Camp, but watching it for a little while, there is some tension here. You can see the goblins very much picking their way through some of the belongings, and you would even notice, I would say, with a 23, there is a point where you see one of the goblins peel away and begin to approach the doorway, and you can see very quickly the dwarves on the far side, what would be almost kind of closer to the northern face of this structure, um, turn and kind of look. And as soon as the goblin notices this, he sort of veers off. And you would imagine it would be very difficult to sneak up these stairs. They are in the midst of the sort of stone guard. You can see the Coltron dwarves who wear heavy plate mail. Those would be the stone guard. You met one of them back in Port Quinn, actually. You can see some of the goblins, all of them wearing little red hats, not uniform by any means. And you can tell some of the dye, probably not dye, but little patchwork. You can see like what looks like sleeping caps on some of them, these sort of hats that look like at one point
I'm
they were
picturing little
kind of
garden gnomes.
yeah, not terribly far off. And they do, some of them do have like these little red tunics, and so they are called the red cap goblins.
I love
But
them.
yeah, so you can see that those two factions are definitely present. You do not see, and I would say, Gunter, this is probably relayed to you as well. You don't see this figure that Gunter mentioned. And he would relay the name as well, Zelga Stonestaff, or Zelga the Stonestaff. You don't see this figure, this sort of powerful dwarven woman that Gunter had mentioned. You do notice that there is what looks like a sliding bolt, and weirdly enough, it's on the outside of this door, almost as if it was designed to keep stuff in rather than people out. This wouldn't require a lockpick. This would just mean moving this iron bar and then gaining entry. But you, being somebody who has uninvitedly entered a couple of structures in your time, you would recognize this is going to be really hard to sneak into, but you can certainly try. As you guys are observing this kind of stuff, Heinrich, you push your way back and kind of out through the ruins and rubble of this section of the Undercity, and for about 15 minutes walk through almost this expanse of nothing. And you kind of familiar, there's a moment where you do get a little bit worried because it seems almost like a little too long. When you're driving, you're like, did I pass my exit? But go ahead and make a survival check. And make it at advantage, because this is a path that you purposefully noted a couple of things.
19.
19. Okay, so with the 19, very easily you can see, and kind of looking for it, you eventually make out that kind of statue of a woman that you had seen Nilly Wenslow sort of carefully touch a touchstone in this empty space. And you walk by that and kind of finding your heading, very quickly make your way to the Gentle Repose. This Victorian structure just looming out of the darkness.
Before I reach there, I've been trying to think of a way to like get this object back into the cannon.
Okay.
I look at the statue, and as I'm touching it, I kind of like remember, like randomly, I guess because it's the first time I've been by myself in a while, not like guiding or being guided apparently by Gunter. or anyone else really for that matter. But there was that something about the out of place nature of the inn, and how that reminded me of the out of place room in oh god, the Heart or wherever it was, right?
The time stopped room, yeah, it was in the
Yeah.
heart of the Sunrest Islands.
And like the displaced area, and then that, and then the statue and everything. And I'm gonna pull out the jet black owl figurine that I've had for like a long time.
Okay.
If you remember that, and I'm just gonna like start carrying that around in my pocket and like kind of worry stoning with it.
Okay, sure. You do so.
That's it, and I just because I have a suspicion that it might be something. If it's not, that's fine too. But
Sure.
okay.
So as
have that at the ready.
absolutely. So you take this out. Was it in the pack?
Yeah. So I just
Okay.
kind of like I think as soon as I run my hand along the statue again, something just like clicks in my head, and I just remember, oh yeah, that thing. That's a pretty interesting. And then I like want to look at it to see if it looks kind of lifelike or anything like that.
Okay. Make an investigation check if you're gonna kind of take a real gander at this thing.
I haven't looked at it in a while. 10.
Okay. It is dark in the space. You're in the Undercity, and as you walk through and you're approaching the Gentle Repose, there are lights in the window, and you can see the dull flicker of the lanterns within. But it's dark, and so looking at this owl, you get the gentle outline. It's not a terribly realistic owl, but there are little details, and you kind of make a note of yourself or to yourself to look at it in maybe a better lit place later.
Yeah.
But yeah, you make your ways to the Gentle Repose. You can see the awning and the sort of stained glass window and the red door beyond.
Mm-hmm. I'll go in.
Okay, you enter in and you can see across the way Cinder, the drow with the severe sort of high ponytail and the black suit, standing up with her hand sort of ever behind her back.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Oh, Heinrich.
Yes. Hello, Cinder. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Well enough.
Can I get you anything?
No, at the moment I'm fine, thank you. Just suppose go take a moment's respite in my room and see if I can find any of my friends who are still here.
The Gentle Repose is a wonderful place to rest, even though the halls are often frequented by those that cannot find it. But I trust you know the way. If you do need anything, feel free to ask.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it.
And as you kind of walk by her and up the stairs towards your room, you can see she is watching you. And now, as you go back, you can see again her hand just like ever ready by that weird little almost quilted pouch or sort of thing along her belt. And you are getting the sense now that is very similar to your bag.
Yeah, it's a sash of holding.
Maybe. But you make your way back up. And are you going to the larger room that you know that Shay and Craddock are in?
Yeah, if that's where I remember they were.
Sure. So you approach the door. I would say, Shay, you now kind of looking, Craddock has been quiet. And after he mentioned more, when he sort of entered very much doing sort of some meditation and trying to figure out what's going on here. But you hear footsteps approaching. And I would say at this point, because you've heard them enough and given your passive perception, you recognize the sort of trademark gait of Heinrich. And you also hear like the ching, 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 ching. All the little metal plates just kind of rattle together.
And I open the door.
And there's Heinrich. You can see Craddock, who turns his head. The eye opens just for a moment, but then turns back and closes.
You're back.
Yeah, I got some good information on where we should be headed to next. My brother and his friends are here in the city, or the Undercity, and apparently have been above. And didn't sound like it went too well, but anyways, for many reasons, I feel like it would be really smart of us to find him.
Most likely.
That, and also I'm realizing I'm not sure if any of us need to rest yet, but now that I'm realizing it, Gunter isn't following me back. I would have had... So maybe there's also the possibility of needing to save them. him and wherever Morwen went as well. I mean, we all know where we're staying, so if we wait long enough here, they might come back, but you know how that goes sometimes.
Yes.
Heinrich, as you mentioned rest, Krodik's eye again kind of opens, and his legs unfold. The wings, now healed, kind of flap up as he stands. Heinrich, you mentioned rest.
Yes.
I have considered this. For some reason, the people here don't seem to be having the nightmares. Have we thought about why?
You know, I haven't really given it much thought because, well, we haven't even been here a whole sleep cycle, I suppose, since there's no really day or night.
But they don't bear the same haunted look that everyone else has.
This is very true. Maybe something about the mountain itself is protecting them?
Perhaps.
Or maybe there's some sort of call to arms, if you will, to have... So, didn't Gunter mention that she was sort of coercing him to come here? Maybe that's what she does? She sort of lures people in by terrorizing them and threatening them unless they come and join her ranks? Is that even something that makes any sense?
Same.
Before I hurt my wing, I had been sent by Era to scout out the area around the squall to investigate perhaps rumors of giants. I did not see any. But on my way back, I did go by Kol Taram, and I saw many creatures moving through the smoke in the direction of a breach in the main gates. I believe you are right. She is calling things and people here. To what end, I do not know. But it isn't penetrating this mountain. Perhaps you are right. It could be the geography. But if there is any way for us to turn it to our advantage, we should.
Well, while we're here, if we can rest easily, there's at least that advantage. Hopefully.
For the moment, we can potentially assume that she's at least blind to where we are.
Yes.
However, we stand out.
Well, yeah. I can't imagine a way to fix that other than some serious illusions. And I don't even know anyone, if there is anyone in here, especially because of the magic being all frowned upon. How
that is the other thing that I
stand out.
That is the other thing that I that is the other thing that I thought about. If something is keeping magic out, the chances of it being arcane are very high. Who here would be powerful enough to do that? There are no magic users that we've seen. It's something that's frowned upon.
I'm with him and he's randomly laughing.
Yeah, you can just hear Gunter chuckling as he moves along.
Possibly, I mean, I don't want to... Might it be my brother and his friends? Do you think they would be... I don't even know. Would I even know? Like, if that was the thing that, you know...
So when the last time that you had spoken to Erdos, or the last time that you guys had really interacted, you don't remember him having... I mean, you've seen some of the things that Gunter can do. And though Gunter may not be aware of his magical abilities, you've certainly been seeing the effects that he can cast. You don't remember Erdos being able to do stuff like that.
Sure, not him necessarily, but like the whole order and whatever he may have fallen in line with, you know. Perhaps.
There's not a whole lot about Helm that you know. And you don't know too much about the organization. You've heard of the Helmsguard, but not a whole lot. You wouldn't really know if that's a capability.
Mm-hmm. Well, Shay or Krodik, I'm not too familiar with this area, obviously. So, are there any rumors that have passed around that you may know? Would the Watch be possibly responsible, or anyone like that?
As you say that, there is a sort of kind of, you see very bird-like the Krodik's kind of turning and considering. That is an idea. The Watch are quite mysterious, and they do help many in need. although we have never seen how they operate. In order to defend people from the creatures and the things of the north, they would need to be quite powerful, and there are not many. Perhaps it is them.
I guess we would be best to keep our eyes out for them, or any sign of people doing magic. I'm not exactly sure how we would be able to find the source, if there is a source. Well, if there's a person or a thing, if it's an object or anything like that.
As you said, it is something that we should keep an eye out for, and when we see Morwen and Gunter, we should relay that to them as well.
Perhaps see if they uncovered anything else while they were out.
Yeah, I'm sure they've uncovered things, but maybe they wouldn't be useful.
Smile about this.
As you're saying this, you can see, like, as you say, that they're both out. You can see Krodok, all of a sudden some of the feathers ruffle around his neck, and you can immediately, especially you, Shay, knowing and having grown up with Krodok, like he's just very nervous at that prospect. But very quickly the feathers smooth. Perhaps it may be to our advantage to find Gunter and Morwen.
Yes, that's right. That was what I kind of was mainly now concerned with, realizing that they haven't made it back yet. The area that we were in was a little rough and just kind of rigid, if you will, under some serious guarding. And if they're still there, that's possibly a very bad thing.
Well, in thinking about this, though I am a good actor, I am not easy to disguise. I believe it may be best for me to wait here. Shay, Sky Sister.
Sky Brother.
You, being human, will not be welcome, but it will be easier for you to hide, to blend in, to become something that you are not.
Yeah, the disguise from before seemed to work pretty well.
Yeah.
You can see like Krodok's feathers again kind of ruffle up.
Well, not yours. No offense, but
let's get on with it.
Okay, I'm so sorry. It's just really for yours and mine and all of our benefits that we don't get into any trouble unnecessarily.
I'm aware.
So it is important not to allow such simple things to distract us from the path that we walk. I will wait here, and do not worry. I will be fine.
Okay. If you... yeah, I was going to say if you need anything, but there's no real way to... Well...
Heinrich, and he takes a hand, and he puts a hand on your shoulder. If there is danger, I will find you. I am a scout of the Zinyi.
Yeah, it's true. Sorry, maybe my nerves are just up and about because I haven't seen my brother in a long time. That's probably it. Anyways, I'm just gonna shrug that one off real quick and start to do the disguise. If that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so very rigidly, Shay stands there as you reapply this sort of like weird sort of shrouded disguise with the blackened paint around the eyes.
Yeah, and then the mask can go on top to even further obscure.
Okay, so you take this beautifully gilded, golden and red metallic mask that seems to look almost like a red hawk going up to the nose, and then where the beak would be, just a suggestion before it ends and Shay's nose emerges. And Shay, as you pull it down, you can see in the dark suddenly. What I will say is, you guys all know this is a pretty rough area, and you haven't seen anybody else outwardly wearing gold. But
super fancy, isn't it?
You know, that being said, you do have Shay in disguise. I'll say because you've done this disguise before, don't worry about a performance check.
Sure.
You can very easily sort of apply this. Shay, you are now disguised as Babushka Shay. And you can see, I would say none of you really notice this. Well, Heinrich doesn't notice this, but Shay, you do notice just because you've grown up with him. Krodok, just the faintest bit of a smile as he regards what you look like. And he tilts his head just a little bit. Sky Sister, you look well.
I give him the Zinni equivalent of come off it, like stop, like...
Oh, you.
Quit.
Heinrich, you notice this very, very slight kind of shift in Shay. There's like an exchange that happens silently But it does happen.
My passive perception doesn't catch it.
It does not. So as you guys are making these preparations, are you heading out to try to find Gunter and Morwen?
Yeah. And sort of keep an ear out for anything pertaining to Helmsguard kind of stuff.
Okay, so anything that might be relevant to Helm.
Yeah, if we pass by any sort of tavern area. But I know that Zelga was her name, right?
Zelga Stonestaff, yeah.
Yeah, she had mentioned where most likely they were. There was some bar or something nearby she pointed at.
Yeah. She had mentioned.
But that was past the barricade.
It wasn't past the barricade. So it's by it's by the Pillar of the People.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the, let me just 1 second. It would be a place called, it would be by the glowing pillar. So it's the place that the Koltaram refugees have kind of carved out to make their own. One of the very first things to go up, as you all saw in Port Quinn, was a bar.
Yeah.
And so it is the sort of tavern that doubles as a town hall whenever dwarves kind of settle somewhere. And it's a place called the Bleeding Stout.
Bleeding Stout?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you heard that there were tieflings, or at least one tiefling that stayed behind. And that's the area in which they were most likely to go and settle. It is already kind of like a refugee area, and so it sort of seems natural.
Okay. So then that would be something that I'd maybe try to pass by. Or is that sort of out of the way? I'm not exactly sure. The geography is still kind of eluding me, but would that be an on the way to the barricade area where I left Gunter?
So, give me 1 sec here. I have a lot of notes and a lot of binders. Where you guys currently are, the sort of statuary pillar, it's not. Here we go. It is if you were to look, it's the southwesternmost of these 6 pillars that have been turned into communities. The glowing pillar is all the way diagonally across the space. So it's
I wrote northeast.
It's about an hour walk.
Okay.
To get there from where you are. You'll pass by, or you'll either pass through the area surrounding the Dark Hive, or the area surrounding the Goblin Gables.
Okay.
In order to get there, but that's you can kind of choose how you want to pick through there.
Probably Dark Hive would be safest.
Okay.
Since I don't speak Goblin or Undercommon.
Sure. So you guys decide you'll head
sticking to not populated areas.
Okay, so you're gonna quietly make your way and kind of try to stay below the radar.
Yes.
Okay, so you guys exit the Gentle Repose. As you guys are leaving, Croddick catches your attention for just 1 second, Shay, and in a familiar gesture tilts his head down so that his forehead touches yours. And it's a little bit awkward because the mask kind of covers, and so you feel the mask shift down a little bit obscuring your eyes. But Croddick says, Inzini, be safe, Sky Sister.
Until we meet again.
And you guys make your way out of the Gentle Repose. Jump cut, Gunter and Morwen, you guys making your way to, or after having kind of observed this area for a little bit, seeing the guard pattern, seeing the different factions that make up this barricade, what do you guys want to do? What is your sort of plan here?
First of all, when you cut back in, it's me just being while he's
okay.
No. So, can you describe this dagger at all? Am I just grabbing all of them?
I mean, I figured while you're up there, just get everything because it's all gonna be there. But the thing that
loot the room, if you will.
The thing that we're specifically getting is a goblin dagger.
I don't know if I know what that looks like. But
well,
okay.
That's why you just get everything.
So what if I get caught?
Don't worry about that. You won't get caught. If you do get caught, I've got some plans. I'm thinking a few steps ahead.
Okay, fine. But if I die, I'm gonna kill you.
What?
What? Okay,
What?
so
Here. First plan. And I'm gonna be like, you got this. Hands on the shoulder. And I'm gonna cast Death Ward
Okay.
on Morwen.
You haven't cast this yet, have you?
I think I cast it on myself once, but that was just by the old.
Okay, so how do you cast Death Ward on Morwen?
Hands on, or like it's kind of like a pump up. You got this, and I.
Okay, so there's this brief kind of pep talk from Gunter, and one of these pats on the shoulders, you feel all of a sudden this kind of, it's like a shift in energy that ripples through your fur. And were you looking at it, you would see almost as if there was a wind going across your body. It just gently blows, and you feel maybe not stronger, but a little bit more secure in your place here amongst the living. But what would you like to do, Moran?
So climbing wasn't a clear way to get to the door, correct?
As far as you could tell, no. I mean, if you wanted, you could climb up the side and kind of like scale around and then drop down towards the door, but you would be scaling across about 50 feet of exposed stone brick and then like directly in front of this entire garrison. You could try.
I don't think I'm gonna Spider-Man it. I think I'll just try to.
So like Mission Impossible to the front door. Okay. Go ahead and make a stealth check for me as you sort of leap down from the barricade that you and Gunter have been sort of positioned on.
All right. Do I get a theme song? Everyone imagine your own theme song.
I'm gonna
insert a theme song here.
To try and make sure that there's nothing suspicious happening around.
Make a perception check then, Gunter. And what did you roll?
21.
21. Okay. So, Gunter, you begin to kind of watch, and you turn to say something to Morwen and just gone.
All right, I was going to help you out a little more, but that's fine.
Very Batman-like is Morwen.
You got this.
What was your perception check?
Perception was dirty 20.
Dirty 20. Okay. So, Morwen, you drop down from this wooden raised barricade section and onto the sort of clearer sections that at one point were probably roads or sidewalks or paths. And quietly, you walk, sort of keeping elements of the ruins between you and the tower. And you do almost like a large sort of perimeter walk, seeing it from each angle as you approach. Go ahead and make a perception check. And Gunter, you do not see Morwen. You begin to look out, and as you're looking for people approaching, Morwen is definitely not one of them.
Oh, she's good.
15.
15? Okay. Looking at it as you go around, you see two possible ways that you could approach. On the far northern area, right before the elements of stone turn into a right angle and become the other side of this tower, you can see around where a lot of the goblins have kind of set up a little camp. There are these like ragged, weird hide tents. It's like a strange hide that's like pale white, and it looks almost shiny from where you are, stretched out over a wooden frame. These like very small little tents. There is a small campfire, although it's not currently lit, and you can see like a really dented, kind of pulled apart and stretched back together pot that is currently empty in that area. But there's also a couple of barrels and crates and things that look like maybe provisions. Some of them have been pried open, and you can tell the goblin's not terribly delicate in terms of removing the contents, but you might be able to sneak through this sort of cache of supplies. And then on the more western side, directly facing the door, when you turn, you can see there are like broken bits of ruins that lead up to where the barricade begins. There's this kind of stone structure, almost 2 stories high, and there are not windows, but like arrow slits around the top. You could maybe climb over this tower, use the height to your advantage, and sort of wait for a period where people are not paying attention to literally sprint to the front door. You would imagine probably not hidden, but you might be able to speed your way through. You don't know enough about this area or about the situation to know if they would follow you in or not. But the mad dash is an option. With a 15, that's kind of what you see. What do you want to do?
I think I'm gonna vote against the mad dash.
Okay. So in your mind, in this small voting arena full of different
Dash or
Morwins.
goblins? Dash or garden gnomes? I choose garden gnomes.
Okay. So you walk around very quietly towards the northern area. As you are approaching, go ahead and make another stealth check for me.
17.
17. What did you actually roll?
6.
Wow. Okay.
That's why the look.
So you walk through and you begin to move through these broken elements of stone and get real low, staying in the areas where the foundations are broken apart and kind of jagged. You slink through your tail, kind of following the patterns, almost snake-like, to where the stones break, staying just below the line, every now and then popping out, scouting out your location. It was a period of time where you poke your head up, and not 5 feet away from you, there's a little goblin sitting. And from where he sits, you can see just the bottom of his little leather sort of pants. He does look very gnome-like with his hat kind of pointing up. And you can see he seems to be sort of whittling something, but he doesn't notice you at all. And you put your head down and continue. You get to the area where there are these this cache of supplies. Are you looking at anything as you go through? Or you just sneak into the door.
Just sneak
Okay.
into the door.
Very single-mindedly, you keep between the barrels, keeping things between you and the few goblins that are here. You can see they're mostly walking around, and kind of as you try to sneak in, you're recognizing that they're also sort of walking paths and watching other people to see if they can find a way to sneak in. But managing to navigate your way through a bunch of terrible perception checks, you make your way to the edge of where the stairs actually begin. And quickly kind of darting from shadow to shadow and making your way there, you duck down, your paws up on the actual stairs themselves. And you are right now tucked into a little corner where the stairs meet the actual wall. As far as you can tell, hidden in a shadow. And all it would take is for you to leap out, pull that iron bolt aside, and enter this structure.
Is anyone looking at me?
As far as you can tell, no.
I do it.
Can I?
Okay. Gunter, from your vantage point, all of a sudden, you see this inky black shape just detach itself from the shadows. And all of a sudden, you can see the studded kind of leather armor that Morwen wears, the red jacket that had somehow become invisible in the shadow. And you watch as she like crawls up the front steps. This large iron sort of sliding bar just pulls slowly aside. The door opens, and from your perspective, Morwen, you can hear just little bits of creaks. And so you're like every now and then having to stop. But then Morwen, opening it only about a foot, slips inside, and the door shuts.
Nice.
And as far as you can tell, Morwen's inside. Morwen, as you enter this space,
I'm
give me just
scared.
1 second. Okay.
Is the boogeyman in there?
Oh, should have made a signal.
Wouldn't have been a bad idea.
She'll be fine. She'll be
Wait,
fine.
what is it? 1 ouch, I'm fine. 2 ouches, I need help. Right?
Just come out screaming hot goss.
What is your perception
I'm sorry.
check?
I'm sorry, I didn't roll.
No worries.
16.
Okay. So as you enter, you slip in and you turn around. You can see there are about 10 feet wide these stairs, stone stairs made up of a similar brick, although these bricks are a little smaller to accomplish the shape that needs to be made for the staircase. And it rises up maybe like 25 feet, so you can't see the actual floor ahead of you. But from the shape, you can see that it is like a stone wall that goes down, and you can see the elements of a very frayed red and gold rug, just tatters of it and little bits of thread kind of hanging over. There's probably a runner at one point, but it is long ago rotted away. With a perception of 16, that's what you see. Listening for a second, you don't hear anything in particular.
I'm going to very, very slowly and stealthily creep my way up.
Sure.
and doing it like
okay.
in case there's like setting off stuff or I don't know.
Checking for traps.
Checking for traps.
Okay, make an investigation check.
Okay. 16.
Okay. Very carefully and gingerly, sort of the cat reaching out and tapping something that they're not really sure if it's a toy or food or what. You just tap, tap, and kind of bat the stairs one by one as you go up, very quietly. And one by one, as you crest the steps, you find yourself stepping onto actual frayed carpet. It's badly rotted away, just remnants of faded color in the dark. You're really seeing mostly in grayscale, but you're in a 60-foot long corridor. Your vision just barely reaching the end. There's a wooden door in the far wall, and you can see there's another located on the right, about halfway down, maybe 30 feet. There are these square columns that rise up along the wall, two on either side. About the area, there's strewn broken columns and tables. You can see broken bits of wood that may have been a chair, a floor-length mirror overturned outside one of the doors. Even from where you're seeing, you can see bits of broken glass. This thing's been kind of pulverized. And you can see now there are, like, with a perception of 16, that's kind of all you see.
That wasn't perception. Well, that was investigation.
That's investigation. Sorry, okay. And you didn't see any traps, but that's kind of what you can see at the moment. Not really venturing out further into the space.
I proceed in the same manner, and also ears perked for anything else in there.
Okay, so on your guard, you progress into the hallway. Quickly cutting out Gunter, as you see Morwen kind of disappear into the structure, is there anything that you're doing, or are you just waiting?
I'm just trying to, stay out of sight, keep guard to make sure that no one's like gotten suspicious and looks like they're going to go where they might run into Morwen.
Okay.
Making sure if the need arises, I can create a distraction to get a proper extraction from the mission.
Okay, so at about like the 10-minute mark, as Morwen's kind of picking her way through and slowly going up, not even 10 minutes, almost 5 minutes, you don't notice anything. As far as you can tell, Morwen has successfully made it in. There hasn't been any explosions or commotion that has been risen, and you haven't noticed any difference in activity happening through the barricade itself.
I'm trying to estimate as Gunter how long Morwen would take to get to where I showed her the dagger would be and out.
Walking speed, like 5 minutes.
Okay.
But being very careful, hard to judge. When Morwen decides that she's going to sneak up somewhere, you never actually see her do it. So it's difficult for you to judge how long that would take.
Not impatient yet. I'm still holding out.
Okay, so you're just kind of waiting. Meanwhile, we have Shay and Heinrich. You guys making your way over towards the area that you know to be sort of the refuge of Koltaram in search of this tiefling. As you do so, you're going to pass by the Dark Hive. About 30 minutes into your walk, you begin to come to areas where there is habitation. Fairly simple stone structures, but some up to 3 stories tall. You're noticing there are interesting structures because there is no real need for windows here. There's not a lot to see. The whole space is really cast in darkness with little flickering elements of light here and there, sort of in the more important spots, places where details would need to be seen, outside of doors and things like that. But there aren't really windows in a lot of these structures. You're also noticing as you go through, now the people here tend to be, as a whole, a little bit better dressed. You see passing you maybe 20 feet away on this much wider sort of road, an orc dressed in fairly simple leathers. You can see beyond him perhaps 2 humanoids, although in the shadows, maybe human or elf, but they pass by. And now, like here and there, you're beginning to be not in a crowd, but in an area that's pretty well populated. And so, here and there you are hearing bits of Undercommon, which seems to be the primary language. But as you draw a little bit closer to this pillar that makes up the Dark Hive, you're seeing a couple other things. Let me just pull up this part of my notes real quick, because I got my notes and my notes confused. I know that makes no sense to you, but it makes sense to me.
Notes and notes.
Okay, so as you enter the area that sort of makes up the Dark Hive's neighborhood, go ahead and make perception checks for me.
Can I just give her advantage?
Yeah.
Okay.
24.
So, Shay, as you look around, you can see Heinrich sort of keeping an eye out on the places that you don't look. You sort of do one of those, I'll take the right, you take the left. We're going to find the house numbers so that we can deliver this pizza.
Yep.
But you guys begin to watch. And Shay, you notice a few things. There are here and there pairs of dwarfs that are going by. These dwarfs are dressed a lot nicer than the other people who are making their way through here, although they are dressed better than the people in the Pillar of the People neighborhood. You are noticing that these dwarves, not like Virgil and not like other dwarves you've seen, their beards not terribly long, fairly short, not braided, not beaded, not decorated in any way, but very well taken care of. You could see a lot of them wearing their hair in almost like a pompadour style slicked back sort of way, leaving the dark bushy eyebrows very much prominent and visible. You're also noticing when these figures walk, a lot of times the folks down here take care to maybe cross the street. But there is this sort of, you get the sense almost like a town guard, but there's definitely a lot more fear than respect here. You would get to a point where very close to the pillar, extending out about 50 feet from the structure of the pillar itself, and now seeing the pillar, this is a little different than the pillars you've seen. There are areas that kind of line some of the bricks that are chased in some kind of metal, and as the torches that stand outside, there are 3 doors entering the structure here along this 100-foot long wall. You can see that there are torches that have been placed out, and as they flicker, it's not just any metal. There are like bits of gold that lie on the brick. You would also notice that in the fenced-off area, it's almost like chain link fencing. This is iron, and it's not actual like chain links. It is very much like grids. They rise up about 8 feet, and beyond there are a number of kind of wooden tables, although given the day, they're all empty. But you would remember that Gamble did tell you about the dark market. This is an area where pretty much anything that is not a living creature can be sold or bought. It only occurs on the Alberon equivalent of Wednesdays, and you guys are here on a Sunday. But you could see this would be an area where there is maybe about 24 tables just kind of laid out. And as you pass by that on your right, you can see there is maybe like 20 feet tall, this huge looming iron cube, it would appear. There are gates that are currently barred. It looks as if there is no activity inside, but that does catch your attention. And as you guys progress on and go even further, is there anything that you guys want to do?
I just kind of safely make our way through
Yes.
this area.
Yeah.
Kind of like trying to blend in as best as possible.
No problem. So you guys make your way through, leaving the sort of more populated elements of the Dark Hive and its surrounding neighborhood behind. And again, you enter an area where the populated buildings begin to get smaller and then eventually become sort of ruins and abandoned structures, and it gets much quieter. And there's maybe 1 or 2 people that pass, and then about 5 minutes goes by where you see nobody at all. And you begin to enter an area that, while not quite as desolate as the place surrounding the statuary, there are like it's actually a lot cleaner here. It doesn't feel desolate. It feels cared for. And you begin to see now off in the distance this final pillar, the only one that I think you guys haven't actually seen or been to yet. But the what was once known as the glowing pillar and is now, and this is bustling with activity, an area that has been carved out for the dwarves and the other people that have been pushed out of Kulturam. This pillar rising up, you can see there are many, there's actually been a stone wall constructed around, fairly formidable, rising up about 10 feet high, and you can see there is activity along it. So there are actual pathways and guards. You can see there's a large stone structure, although covered in scaffolding and sort of a makeshift pulley at the top, still under construction, but it looks as if it will be sort of a tower-like structure. And in the actual sort of yard around where this stone wall encompasses, you can see there are a few other sort of tents and smaller structures that have risen up. You can see, looking very much like the Fist Hall, there is a structure, kind of jagged wood and iron, but already care has been put into, like it's already starting to be improved upon. But you would recognize that probably as this, the Bleeding Stout. And there is like a fair amount of activity around. You see a lot of Kulturam dwarves. You see here and there a human. Heiner, go ahead and make a perception check for me.
12.
12? Cool. That is what you see. And this place may be now about 200 feet away, but already you're kind of getting to areas where there are like marks in the ground that seem as if they're almost designed to be like scaffolding or areas marking territory or something similar. But it looks as if maybe this is being broken up for a future project. But would you guys like to just continue and approach?
Shay?
This is your mission. I'm following
Okay,
you.
then let's keep going. I mean,
Okay.
seems
You
like
guys
the place
progress
to
up
go.
to an area that where this wall kind of ends, and there is not a gate, but sort of a gap in the wall itself. There are two large stone structures, and you'd imagine at some point there will be a gate here. But for the time being, it is fairly heavily guarded by what you recognize to be the Stone Guard, heavily armored, squat Kulturam dwarves. And as you draw close, one of them holds up a hand, gauntleted hand. You can see, similar to Virgil, he's wearing like a fairly similar helmet, but there isn't this like ornate looking bat-like thing. It's just like a fairly simple helm. But he holds up his hand. Hey, stop.
Yes.
What's your business here?
Reconnecting actually with my separated brothers from, well, the other tieflings that have come through here. We got separated on the road, and Zelga, I think, said that they would be possibly inside here, or at least some of them have lingered behind.
Make a persuasion check.
14.
As soon as you say Zelga, you can see his whole posture kind of relaxes a little bit. Ah, you know Zelga then?
Yeah, she was kind enough to inform me that this area, my first time here in the Undercity, this is where I'd most likely find my companions, or at least those that are still here.
Normally you'd be right, and we did have, I think, the last tiefling that stayed behind. But they went out and I believe they're dedicating themselves to something a little bit more holy, perhaps. You could find him in the Cave of the Gods, of the Dark Market.
Oh. And is that, and I just kind of point back to where we came from?
No. And now you can see this is now like the police officer who's giving directions. Yeah. He kind of sidles up to you and points through an element of what looks like actually now you can see some of those markings in the ground, and there are like the beginnings of a foundation being laid out. It seems like maybe these people are sort of feeling like they might be settling in a little bit more and maybe not returning to Kulturam right away. But he points and just kind of says, well, if you follow along the drainage ditch, just progress down about 25 minutes, you'll reach almost sort of the wall of the Undercity, and there is just a massive cave surrounded by boulders.
Okay.
Steps that lead down. We're not a religious city. The people who settle down here, a little bit less civilized than you or me. Many practice religions, but there's nothing official. but many small churches and shrines exist within the God's Market below.
Okay. So
The
God's Market, is that
the God's Market? Yeah, I misspoke earlier. God's
Okay.
Market. It's fairly safe. Nobody defaces things down there for fear that their followers' wrath might find them. But should you be looking for this last tiefling, that is I think where they would go. They went to set up a shrine to Helm, I think, whoever it was that they were following.
That yes, that is who we follow. The rest you say are not with him. They're all above.
Yes, they decided that they would go to Kol Taram. I think pretty much everybody said not to do it, but their leader said,
"Stay behind."
He's quite
I'm
old.
not sure if you... I see.
And I would imagine it seemed as if the trip here was quite harrowing. I didn't hear the details myself, but spiders were involved. And I believe he may have just been too old to continue this journey.
I see. I suppose then the most direct information would be from him. Thank you. I do appreciate that, all of this information. And should I need access to above, is this way? And I kind of point at the pillar, one that would be
kind of follows your point. Oh, it's not one that you could reach the top from. You could take the pillar of stairs. If you're a part of that tiefling group, I'm sure they'll let you go in. I wouldn't recommend going alone.
No, of course not.
And he kind of turns and he sees Shay, his eyes narrowing for a little bit as he seems to try to determine what this creature is.
Yeah, and I'll kind of just like I'll like lean in front and be like, well, thank you. Not like obviously lean in, but lean in as if to turn and walk away.
Okay. One of those,
like, yes, well, thank you kind of thing.
And he sort of holds up one gauntleted hand. You hear the metal kind of creak as he raises it up. Bring others with you. Maybe try to hire some muscle, or if you have friends, bring them. But the pillar is a dangerous place.
Of course, and I mean, hopefully, if I could reconnect with my friends, well, they would probably have already made it up by now, I assume. I'll see. I'll figure something out. But thank you.
If you would like an alternative suggestion.
Yes, I'm listening.
Well, the Undercity was built in a space originally designed as a runoff. If you follow this drain, eventually you will find a way to some part of Kol Taram.
Right. Yes, I believe Zelga mentioned that as well. And from where we are now, I suppose, what's the heading that would be the fastest?
Well, and he kind of again like goes around. If you go over to the east and follow the ditch in the opposite direction, an hour away, you will find it just continues into the rock. And following that, I've never gone myself, but water still flows from there from time to time. Must connect somewhere.
Right. Again, yeah, she said the same. Well, I appreciate it, and if you see Zelga before I do, send my regards, of course.
Of course. Well, who do I say sent these regards?
Shit, what name did I give her?
You gave her your real name.
Makavir, yeah. Makavir said, well, thanks, I guess. Thanks again for all the help guiding me around here.
I'm sure she's happy to do it. Stay safe out there. And he turns and kind of returns to his post. Which direction you guys going?
Probably, I mean, I want to head down to the God's Market, but also take note of this like ditch and see if it's easy to find in the future.
Okay.
I'm assuming it is. It's just along the wall.
So this runs straight through. So it's the farthest part of the Undercity, and then there's this large ditch. You actually wouldn't, even with dark vision, be able to see the other side. But you were told that on this other side there was theoretically a giant's encampment.
I see.
Of stone
giants. The same ditch. Okay.
Yeah, it's like this
I was
massive.
That as like a rift that was like opened up from like an earthquake or something.
It's only about like 50 feet deep, but it runs the entire length of the Undercity. So from end to end, it's like a 2-hour walk from one end of this ditch to the other. It appears that one end of the ditch seems to go almost to the God's Market, and then the other direction will bring you to the rest of this drainage system.
Okay. And then God's Market is south or north or east, west? What's
East.
The east? Okay. Okay. And then I don't know, what would you say? Runoff?
You might call it a gray water runoff.
Cave? Runoff cave to the west?
I'll say, you know what? He would have told you it's known as the gray water runoff.
Okay. Cool.
Just so you have something to write.
Yep, thank you. And that's the way to go up if we don't want to do the stairs. Stop. Cool. So we're heading to the east, I suppose, unless Shay, you have any other...
Other than potentially finding Gunter and Morwen, which was our original purpose. But...
Sorry, I might be getting ahead of myself, but
Thanks.
Yeah, I suppose that might be wise. Yes, okay, well let's at least make the heading.
It's your call. I don't see any part of the city that's on fire, so I can't imagine that they're in any imminent trouble.
It's true, this is true. Well then I suppose that's probably the smartest thing. Just to at least know where they are. I'm sure they haven't gone far, because Gunter was talking about some plan, although he wasn't telling me any information on it. But he would probably still be in the same area.
Gunter didn't share information?
Oh, that's so strange.
Hope he's feeling okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, then he's likely at least in one spot. I'm sure we can find him.
So,
hopefully he's not in more than one spot. That would be pretty
I
bad.
was about to say Morwen might be, though.
Yeah.
All right. So as we're walking away, making that heading, and the guard hopefully isn't really paying us any mind anymore, I'd kind of like, we would both be talking about this and then veer back towards the...
Sure. Yeah, I mean, he walked back to his post.
Yeah.
Very much you can tell, like, kind of disregarding you as a threat.
Sure.
More just, he helped you guys out. And he feels very confident that he knows who you are and what you're trying to do. So yeah, you guys make your way off, and you're trying to find Morwen and Gunter now?
Well, specifically Gunter. I knew Morwen was there, but I know where Gunter was.
Okay,
as
so
long as it's not too far from where
you begin to head back in the direction of the pillar of stairs, the encampment surrounding it, and hopefully the Gunter somewhere in that vicinity. And as you guys are walking back, Morwen, come back into this dark hallway. It's about 60 feet long, and you begin to walk forwards into it. Where are you heading? There's a doorway all the way down at the end. There's a doorway to your right, fallen mirror, many pieces of broken furniture.
I mean, I guess in the direction towards what it would look like would be on the other side of the wall that he originally pointed me to.
Okay, so that would be sort of down at the very end of this hall. You said it was about 70 feet, and so quick sort of guesstimation, you would imagine on the other side of that door.
Okay. I'm gonna make my way, but still kind of staying in the shadows.
Okay, make a stealth check.
Walking along a wall like a cat would.
Just straight out on the wall.
Okay, yeah, of course. 90-degree angle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, shit.
30.
It actually says 30 on the die. She hasn't even added her modifier yet.
18, 19, 30.
A number of things.
You sneak a number of ways. You glue yourself to the side of the wall, just like liquid shadow moving along, disturbing nothing. Not even the dust moves in your wake. And as you creep through, you see that this mirror laying down on the ground, there are elements of glass that shattered out. It looks fairly mundane, but I would say being so quiet and taking your time to sneak by, you can see there are like bits of writing or markings of some kind on the back of it. But making your way through, it's not anything that you understand. Making your way over to the door, you get there without issue. There appears to be no traps or anything beyond. What are you doing now that you're at the doorway?
Press my ear against it and give it a listen.
Make a perception check.
16.
16. So you put your ear up to the door and you listen. And this is a quiet space. The stone bricks and the thick walls of the pillar keeping the sounds of goblins and dwarves and the things in the barricade beyond very much out. So it's quite quiet. You listen very closely and you hear nothing. But you do smell a very familiar kind of musty, irony smell. And you imagine that there is probably something dead on the other side of this door. You don't hear flies.
Is the door locked?
Do you want to try to open it? The knob turns freely in your hand. You don't
Is there
feel any kind of lock. There's not.
All right, I'm gonna peek in.
Okay. With a roll of 30, this is a very rusty door, but with a roll of 30, you slowly open it, micron by micron, millimeter by millimeter, and the door opens silently. You open it about this much and just kind of peek in. From the other side, if there was a camera on you, would see the two green cat eyes, the yellowish kind of cat eyes just pop out. You see beyond a door or like a room that has been tossed almost. And as your eyes adjust to the darkness within, you can see there is another door on the far side. There's a knob, no keyhole, but your attention is immediately pulled back to the room itself. And you're realizing that the reason that this door would have been so creaky, beyond just the rust, the top hinge has been just cleanly severed. There is no torn metal, or it doesn't look as if the metal was like forced this way by the impact. Cleanly severed, just shiny metal. You can see that within the room there are a number of leathery hide-like sleeping bags. Only a couple are sort of on the ground. There are a few that are scattered over, and there's one that's like pierced through the middle by a piece of broken wood. It appears to be from like a bookshelf or something that has fallen and been like torn apart almost. And there's a dark spatter of blood across the far wall, sort of interrupted by the door itself. There is broken glass here on the floor, and there are 4 torch holders, and they're all empty, but one almost near the far side, the farthest right torch, has been like torn away from the wall itself. You can see the metal like twisted and almost to the point of breaking. With that perception roll, you can see there are these sort of dark lumps here and there, perhaps bodies, although difficult to tell from the doorway. What do you want to do?
Creep up and see if they are alive.
Okay. So you open the door just a little bit more and make your way into the space itself. The air here, almost a little colder and heavy with that smell. The sweet sort of smell of decay. Yeah.
Also, the door behind me, I'm going to pull closed all the way until it's just barely open.
Sure. So you want to close it behind you without actually closing
if I have to run out. Yeah.
You got it. So as you enter, you quietly pull the door until you feel the actual edge of the door touch the wall, but you don't close it all the way. Creeping into the space itself, you can now see there are what look like 2 lumps of clothing, definitely spattered in blood, and you can see one of them, the clothing appears torn, and you can see bone, but also still elements of kind of dried out flesh attached to it. There appears to be perhaps 3 corpses in this area.
And they were murdered.
Make a medicine check.
All right.
14.
14? Yeah. Looking at these, I mean, you can see one of them. You can see elements of sort of bone and like bits of flesh kind of off to one side and like separated by maybe about a foot. You can see like the spatter of blood again on the wall. This was a very violent happening within this room, and these 3 creatures did not meet a natural end. You're sensing heart attack, like probably not going on here.
Can I look at the wounds and everything and try to determine what killed them?
With the medicine check of 14, you look at these wounds and you're guessing something physical.
Do I see? I'm going to look for like footprints. First of all, what are the dead things?
Without disturbing them, because of the condition of the bodies themselves, difficult to tell. If you wanted to move them, you could probably
I don't want to touch that.
Okay.
No.
So if you're going to look for footprints and kind of look carefully, make an investigation check.
CX.
Okay. Looking through, I mean, it's difficult to really tell, and you try not to disturb too much, and you're trying to be very quiet without really kind of like rooting through everything. There's not much that you find. You do find a piece of gold. So that's nice.
Takes it.
Okay. You can add one piece of gold to your inventory. And you're realizing now these bits of broken glass here, they're not like the mirror. They're not like a window. And you kind of bend down and smell, and there's like the faintest smell of maybe whiskey. And so probably this broken bookcase, maybe not a bookcase, maybe a liquor cabinet, but also you're noticing there are bits of kind of torn parchment and things. So maybe sort of a combination, but you don't find much. While you're doing this, meanwhile, Gunter, it's been at this point probably about 10, 15 minutes. You doing anything? You haven't heard anything. And now it's probably been about 10 minutes longer than you thought it would take.
Like, getting a little antsy here. Has like nothing has raised my suspicion, or
there hasn't been any change within the activity of this encampment around the pillar, and so as far as you can tell, nobody is aware that she's in. You haven't heard any commotion. It's been pretty much status quo for the entire time you've been outside.
Okay, I think then
you don't have to do anything. You could wait. I'm giving you the option.
Yeah, I'm trying to see, like, would Gunter use sending again? Because he didn't even realize that he used it before.
Yeah,
be like,
that's true.
Hey, how's it going? I don't think. I don't think he's gonna do that. I think he's just gonna wait it out. He's the lookout. He's looking out.
Sure. So in the dark, although you are very well hidden, anybody passing by may hear the faint of Gunter just kind of waiting there. But nobody seems to notice you. Meanwhile, at about this point, it's been about 15 minutes now. You guys are still walking.
Yeah.
Morwen.
Keep walking until we get there.
Yeah. Morwen, what do you want to do? You're within the space. You haven't found anything. You haven't gone through terribly carefully because you don't want to disturb the bodies or shift too much of this broken wood. But what do you want to do?
First of all, I want to make sure that everything in this room is dead.
Okay. Take some time. With the medicine check of 14. Okay. They all smell equally dead. And you sift both halves of one of the bodies just to make double sure, and it's dead.
Word. All right, and there's another door?
Yep.
They're both.
Is the door dead as well? No. I'm going to.
I mean, this is a fair question, to be honest. I mean, mix. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to approach it the same way I approached the door coming into this room. So
okay.
Give it a listen. Give it a little peephole peek, if there is one.
There's no peephole. However, listening up, using your previous perception check, you don't hear anything. It seems pretty quiet in there. There is a different sort of unpleasant smell. And at first, it doesn't really register with you until you recognize there are these sort of ammonia-like scents to it, and you immediately kind of go to, because you've done it a fair amount. It does smell kind of like a bathroom. You've soiled yourself on a couple of occasions now at this point, discreetly, but it's a smell that you're familiar with.
It's getting pretty funky.
Turns freely in your hand, and as you open just a couple of inches, you can see immediately beyond. This is only maybe a 10-foot long room. There is what looks like almost a chair, but very shakily built, and you recognize it is sort of like a commode. And that is where the smell is emanating from. It smells like it has been used maybe a couple days ago and then hasn't been emptied. However, you can see to the left of this toilet, there are a couple of crates. And you can see there's a book on one of the crates. There is sort of like a, what looks like barrels off in the corner, and you can see now this was used as sort of a combination like bathroom supply room, which is sort of an odd combination. But you see this makeshift toilet, you see some supplies off to the side, and you see a book.
I hate this. Am I close to the other side of the wall that I can tell?
Yeah, I mean, you're as far as you know, you've traveled almost like 90 feet in, and so at this point, you've pretty much traveled almost the entire length of the structure. What Gunter was talking about would probably be either in the room before or this room.
Just grab everything and get out.
You think, what would Gunter say? And that's what you imagine.
All right, before I go into the bathroom, well, I don't know. Did I do a thorough search of the room before? I don't think I did.
No, I mean,
you just looked at the bodies.
Yeah, I just sniffed the dead things.
Yeah, loot the room.
I think I'm gonna do a little bit more than just sniff the dead things. I think I'm gonna check out the room a little bit more.
All right, make another investigation check. Every time that you do it, it gets a little harder.
Yeah. 21.
Okay. This time you decide, you know what? It's between going through a bunch of...
I added... wait, what was it?
Investigation check.
I'm sorry. It's the 16.
Okay. This time you decide you're going to pick through a little closer, and you're actually going to move some of these bodies, maybe shift bits of the wood, not too far, but just to kind of peek at what's underneath. You find a couple things.
I'm going to take like a stick or something.
Yeah, you get like a broken piece of one of the shelves, and you kind of shift things around with it.
I'm not touching it with my hands.
Okay. You do find another 3 pieces of gold kind of scattered throughout. One of them has a little bit of dried blood on it. Okay. You also find within this space, you see a little glint of glass, and at first you think it's just another broken piece, but as the wood shifts back down, you see it's a longer sort of curved piece, and pulling the wood away, it's a bottle of liquor, and there is Elvish written on it.
Ooh.
And the Elvish word, you recognize the word, but not what it necessarily means. The word is pronounced Jaistil, but no real idea about what it actually means. Looking within it, it's a clear bottle, and it has this dark amber-colored liquid within.
Cool. Is that it?
Yeah, not much else.
Oh, I go into the piss room.
Okay. You walk again across the length of this torn apart room and enter this bathroom. You can see this kind of commode, some supplies on the left where there's a book placed upon it, reading material perhaps. What do you want to do?
I shut the door just as much as I shut the one prior.
Okay, so you kind of lean it up against the frame, but you don't actually shut it all the way.
And I'm not going to touch anything, but I'm going to look, but like not near the toilet.
Okay, so you're going to carefully sort of, and as you get close, you do smell it. It is rank coming from this toilet. So you try to stay as far away from it as possible. Make an investigation check.
That's where the dagger is.
14.
Probably.
Okay. You look around for a little bit. You look under the, like from far away, like try to look behind the toilet. You look and kind of, are you opening up these barrels and these crates?
I'm looking first.
Okay, you're looking first.
Before
so these barrels. Yeah, these barrels look like they might be water barrels. You can't really determine it, but there's no strong smell coming from them. These crates look like at one point they probably did have food in them, although they too seem empty with the exception of one of them. Through the cracks, you can kind of see it looks like maybe folded linens or clothing of some kind. And then you kind of look at the book. You can't read the title of it, but you do notice that protruding from it, almost as if it's a bookmark, there appears to be a cloth-wrapped handle of some kind. Perhaps a dagger.
Oh my god. Is there another door in this room?
Not that you can see.
Why are you making this so hard?
I'm just scared if I
Just
grab
take it
this
off.
dagger, the toilet's just gonna erupt.
What? Okay.
Does it look like the dagger, like a goblin dagger?
Make a history check.
Go.
5.
looks like it might be the handle of a dagger.
Just take everything and run.
Yeah.
Okay. You pick up the book. You can add a book. Are you opening the book to kind of look at this dagger?
Nope.
Okay. So you can add a book and dagger to your inventory. You snatch it up and just kind of book it quietly out of the bathroom. Look at that.
Oops.
You make your way back into this torn apart chamber, the bodies strewn about, broken furniture. Where are you going from there? You can see there's a doorway you haven't gone through yet, and then you could return down and back towards Gunter and the Undercity.
Ooh, where's the other door go? Fuck this. I leave the bathroom.
Okay.
No, this is creepy. I don't like this at all.
Okay.
Dead people to a bathroom? That's sick. I'm out.
Okay. So with that, Morwen, you kind of think about it and you stop at the other door and you consider for a moment, and then you make your way back and then you return down the stairs.
All still just the way I came in.
Sure. Easily. You try to retrace your steps as best you can, stepping on the same stones. When you get down to the door, you do realize, though, you're going to have to leave. How do you want to do that?
I don't know.
Yeah. So think about that, because as you were doing all of this kind of investigating and everything, Shay and Heinrich, you guys are walking. Mm-hmm. And you now approach the area that is sort of broken down ruins and the things that surround the pillar of stairs. You can see the encampment beyond. Make a perception check, because you are looking for Gunter.
Mm-hmm.
Both of us?
Up to you guys. Either both of you or one of you at advantage.
Yeah. I'd be like, well, I guess I would stop me like, Shay, so this is roughly the area that I left him in. We were talking over there, and then I broke off to not arouse suspicion when
26.
Morwen yelled at us, and yeah.
Okay, so, and you're kind of like going
like
over everything that happened.
Yeah.
You give advantage to Shay. And Shay, with the 26, you look around for a little bit and you look in all the shady corners and all the small dwarf-like hiding spots. And eventually, it's not your eyes that catch Gunter, it's your ears. And you hear very faintly, echoing off the rubble and the stones, a little... and you just hear very much like a pattern, and you recognize this kind of little giggle of Gunter off in the distance, maybe about close to like 200 feet away, up in an area that kind of disappears even to you're wearing the mask, right?
Yeah.
Even to your dark vision. But you can kind of see like an area that seems to rise up a little bit, like a wooden, almost like a raised barricade. And you would imagine that's where the sound is coming from.
There.
Aha. Yes, of course. A shady alleyway. Why didn't I think of that? Let's as best as we can without being noticed.
Okay. Yeah, you make your way through this area. I mean, you're a little bit off from the pillar of stairs and the encampment around it. Right. Pretty desolate. Cool. And so easy enough, you pick your way over to the area that Shay pointed out. And as you draw closer, more and more you can hear Gunter kind of like mumbling to himself. He seems to have some trouble keeping himself occupied. Mm-hmm. But you make your way over, and Gunter, you do hear this kind of like ching, 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 very quietly of Heinrich's armor approaching.
I'm gonna try to blend in even more.
It's
not part of the plan. He can't come back yet. It's too early. That's a 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heinrich and Shay, you both watch as you can see Gunter fully now. You can see he's kind of just like leaning up looking, and then you watch as he makes eye contact basically with you, Heinrich, and then just slowly disappears behind the wall portion of the barrier.
Yeah.
You still see the bald top of the head and like a little bit of the snow white hair around it.
Yeah. That imagery is very unsettling.
I'm just gonna go crouch down next to him.
Okay. So Gunter, as you hide, you hear there's like a stop. And then the sound of the armor moving around, and then all of a sudden Heinrich just approaches you.
And I just crouch down like he's crouching. And go,
shh. You're not supposed to be here.
Shay, are you going as well?
If there's another direction, like sandwich him in.
Okay, so all of a sudden, as you're going, shh, I'm not trying to be here. All of a sudden, you turn and Shay is just there in this like wrapped up with the hawk mask and just looking kind of creepy.
And I'm gonna message I'm catching on that he's trying to be quiet. I'm like, I just message, where's Morwen? You don't
finishing the job.
You can do.
Yeah, she's finishing the job.
The job? What job?
The one that you remember. You went to distract them and find out the information you wanted. Keep your hands clean.
Right, and you were going to be doing something, and you didn't tell me what it was, but it had something to do with the goblins.
Yeah, the goblins.
Right.
Yeah, Morwen's gonna come back. She's got some good stuff. You'll get your fair share, don't worry.
Okay, fine, but is she safe? Where is she?
She's fine. She'll be fine. And if not, just look, you can't be here. If we get caught together, then my alibi is just busted.
What? Well, tell me.
You gotta go. Go, and I'm gonna shoo him away.
So this 5'2" dwarf tries to shoo the 6 foot tall tiefling in scale mail armor away. Gunter, you find it difficult.
He slouches, so shorter.
Sorry, yeah. So yeah, you're about 5 feet tall. But you don't have a lot of success in shooing Heinrich away unless Heinrich you desire to be shooed.
An actual push, but just get out of here.
Right.
So you suggest we keep our distance to maintain the appearance that we are not in cahoots, as it were.
In the unlikely event that Morwen gets caught, we'll just say we were looking for you. But if you're here, then we can't say that. And you're already in with them because you're goody two-shoes.
We get caught? You mean you and Morwen, or just Morwen?
No one's gonna get caught. Just get out of here.
All right. Well, we're gonna keep an eye on you from a safe vantage, I suppose. Is there any?
Keep an eye wherever. I don't care. Just remember.
You guys are gonna be staggered out, just keeping an eye on each other.
Is there a safe place where I can watch and try to figure out where Gunter's watching? Right.
Okay. So you walk away from Gunter as he hiss whispers at you from behind. Shay, what are you doing?
God.
I kind of menace over him for a minute, just because I'm in this wonderful costume. But I'll walk away after 30 seconds.
Okay, so Heinrich kind of just disappears as you hiss at him, but then the looming, black, swathed, hawk-masked Shay with the darkened sort of smudges of charcoal around her eyes, the eyes just beaming at you. And then the figure also just steps down.
We're gonna go find a vantage point where we can just watch over him and where he's watching to try to figure out where Morwen is.
Okay, you find eventually kind of 30 feet away from that and then around a little bit, there are elements of stairs going up to the foundation and then the eastern wall of a house, or what at one point was a house. The stairs go up to a landing and then up to another landing, but then just end. The rest of the top floor crumbled away over time, and you guys just kind of position yourself up there. And you can see down onto Gunter's kind of bald spot, who is looking forward, and you can't see the actual pillar from here itself, but you can see Gunter watching the pillar. Gunter, if you turn back, you can.
Pillar.
Yeah. So, Morwen, how are you getting out of this pillar? You now stand at the front door.
I'm gonna listen for a little bit listen for footsteps or any foot traffic outside the door.
Okay. Make a perception check.
Passive 14.
Passive 14. Okay, give me 1 second here.
Actually, wait.
What?
That should be... Whatever. I mean, yeah.
We'll
just go
later.
for it.
Okay, passive 14. As far as you could tell, I mean, you do, now that you're up to the door, you can hear kind of the sounds of what sound like two goblins kind of squabbling, but they are doing so in goblin. And so you don't really hear it, but it still seems pretty distant, maybe 60 feet away from the door itself and off to the right. As far as you can tell, there's nothing directly outside.
Gonna give it a little...
Okay. Make a stealth check.
24.
Okay. So you crack the door open so little that the air inside can barely escape. And this one glowing eye barely kind of peers through. And you can see at this moment, off to the side, these goblins squabbling. And at this moment, the two stone guard who are observing the door directly, their attention is kind of diverted towards those goblins. You can try to kind of dash to the left if you want and sneak your way through what looked like sort of like the place that Gunter and Heinrich had originally approached. There are guards off in that direction, but they're looking out.
Okay, while no one's looking at me, I'm taking advantage of that.
Okay. Good. Make a just roll a flat dexterity check for me here.
Do I see Morwen coming out of the door?
You do not.
Assuming that I'm like still keeping watch.
There's like a moment where you are turning around to kind of see where Heinrich and Shay are, and in this moment, Morwen just kind of slips out.
16.
16? Okay. You dart out in this moment where you feel no eyes on you. And there is a moment where you can see one of the guards who is positioned up. Their attention seems to wander towards you. And this is sort of like the cinematic camera would like shift over to the area where like it's about to catch Morwen, and there is no Morwen. You can see like a moment where he sort of squints, and you now crouch down observing. You can see he squints over in your direction as if he saw something that moved. But then you could hear again the voices just kind of rise up again in this goblin argument, and his attention turns, a smile kind of returning to his face. And you skate out as far as you can tell unseen.
With hopefully what you went in for.
So are you returning to sort of the area that you know Gunter to be in? All right, so you make your way back. Another 5 minutes goes by, and Heinrich and Shay, you see all of a sudden looming like out of the darkness behind Gunter. Gunter, you have not noticed this yet. This kind of red jacket separate itself from the darkness, and Morwen now behind Gunter. Anybody can do something. You're all within about 35 feet of each other.
Is this
there
it?
she is.
Do you?
You guys hear Gunter just exclaim.
I'd like Squin be like, "What is she holding? What is?"
Give it here. Let me see. What'd you get?
Do you want to reunite with them, or do you want to continue
and
on?
the dagger?
Okay.
I think let's wait until they leave.
Gunter, she hands you a book. Gunter, you speak Elvish, correct?
I speak
I do.
Dwarven. Wait, do I speak Elvish? No, I speak Dwarven.
Okay. There is Elvish written on the outside of this book. I told you it was Elvish, and you understood that it was the word Gilesteel, but you don't know what that means.
I thought you said that there was a bottle of liquor that said that.
Oh, sorry, that was the bottle.
Oh, yeah.
In Elvish, so you would actually know in Elvish there are 3 words. First word is the, and the last word is daughter. Not really sure what that middle word is. But you hand it over to Gunter, and Gunter, it's an Elvish book. And there is this picture, however, of as you like, are you opening the book?
So I'm holding the book right now.
And you can see the handle protruding from about the middle point.
Like, do you want this book? I'm going to like open up the book to the dagger page.
Okay.
But I'm also cautious that, it's a booby-trapped book or something.
Okay, so you like carefully open
carefully ready to cast spells if necessary.
Okay, so you open it inch by inch, and it opens.
Image.
It's a book, but within the book, there is this dagger, and it's fairly ornate. And immediately, it strikes you because there are, first of all, there is this feeling of magic that kind of emanates from this dagger. But the dagger itself, sort of broad, maybe about 2 inches wide from blade to the back, and it rises up and then forks, and it becomes 2 sort of tips that go out into the edge, almost like a boning knife that you would use on a fish. But it's about 18 inches long. It's longer than it should be pulling out from the book itself. Like the book is only this wide, and as you pull away, it looks like it's a little bit longer than it should be. And the elements of this, you can see the arcane shapes, not terribly unfamiliar to you. They're dwarven in nature, although you have not studied magic necessarily. These are arcane runes of some kind. But as you hold it, I mean, make an Arcana check. Actually, maybe you do know a little bit about this.
I'm gonna scratch my head, be like, what is this? The goblin dagger? And give myself guidance.
Guidance, okay.
That's a natural 1 plus 5, so 6.
It stabs you.
This it seems like it is an important thing. I mean, you can feel the weight to it, the heft of it, the craftsmanship of it is very nice. Probably dwarven in design, which is kind of strange because you assumed it would be a goblin dagger. The elements of it, iron, although there is, as you hold it and shift it around, almost like a reddish cast to the middle, a reddish cast, like a little bit of a reflection. But as you look at it, it is iron, and there's something about it that really feels magical to you, but no real idea what it does.
All right,
can I read it from the rooftop?
Not from the rooftop,
Okay,
no,
okay.
unfortunately.
Is that what you wanted? He was in a bathroom. It was disgusting.
It seems like a dagger. Was there anything else good in there?
There was a bathroom. I wasn't gonna,
You can find a lot of good stuff in the bathroom.
Well, there was a bunch of dead people before I got to the bathroom.
Dead people?
Or things.
Why would there be dead people in a guard tower?
Is that where I went?
I think so.
The structure that
I
you
thought I
went
went to the
into,
bathroom.
The whole structure, not the room.
I have no idea any of the stuff. I just went, so I don't know. As far as I know, that's how you get to the bathroom.
that massive towering pillar 100 feet wide on each side, just a large roof for a bathroom.
Yeah.
I don't pass judgment,
What is this all there was?
I also got this.
The booze.
Yeah.
And swishing it around, you can see there's Elvish writing on it, but Gunter, you haven't been around for a little while. Make a history check.
That's a 5.
Yeah. It's a bottle.
Ah.
It was made sometime previous to this moment.
Well, I mean, I guess if this isn't the dagger, we've at least got some hooch.
I mean, there's more stuff in there. There's this
Like
stuff
what?
really nasty. Oh, I don't know. There's a bunch of crates and stuff. I didn't really check.
You didn't check.
I mean,
I told you to get in and get everything and get out.
Nah, it's
that was
gross.
What if smells stopped you before?
I'm gonna message
I've
Gunter
never had
from
to
the
go
rooftop.
to the bathroom to go find a dagger.
Heinrich, what are you doing?
I'm gonna message Gunter from the rooftop and be like, "Can we get a move on,
No, why'd you
please?"
not? How dare you.
Gunter, all of a sudden in your head, you hear
Don't you
Heinrich's
think
voice.
I don't?
Gunter, you all of a sudden in your head hear Heinrich's voice, just telling you to get a move on.
You gotta move on.
And Morwen, from your perspective, he just turns to nobody and shouts that.
I'm gonna look over and be like, and see nobody.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Shay and Heinrich found out. We gotta give them a cut now.
A cut of what? You haven't even told me how much gold we're getting.
What? Look, we'll go get the gold now. Come on, let's get out of here before any more suspicions are raised.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna look over to where I know Shay and Heinrich are and be like, "You stay here. Go. We'll meet up with you in a minute. We're gonna go get our pay. You'll get your cut. Just remember what you said." And I start walking.
We're far enough away that it looks like he's still talking to no one.
Yeah.
I start walking towards the Goblin Gables, assuming that Heinrich probably heard what I said.
Okay. So you make your way down.
I'm sure a lot of people did.
Mormon, are you following him?
Yeah. I don't even know who you made this deal with.
Heinrich and Shay, you guys are joining as well?
I'm going to wait till they're like far enough away.
Okay. So as you watch them
look like we're traveling together, at least in front of this area of the city, and then later on it doesn't really matter. Especially actually when we get back to the Gables, it's kind of like important that I look like I'm still the same Tibu-esque person to the goblins.
Okay. Gunter?
Whilst we are walking towards the Goblin Gables, I wish to cast Detect Magic upon the dagger.
There you go.
Okay.
As I'm inspecting it further.
So remind me again, with that spell, I believe you learn the School of Magic.
You learn at School of Magic, and that's really the only thing that matters for right now because I already know where it is. It would give you like a faint aura around it.
Yeah, so the faint aura around it is in your hand.
Actually, it senses any magic, so if there's other magic as we're walking that I would sense, but I'm trying to focus on what the heck this thing is.
So as you cast the spell, first of all, the bag on Heinrich's shoulder just is emanating a fairly powerful magic glow. And so that immediately kind of, catches your attention. The mat, you look kind of at Shay, who you look behind you, and you can actually see the glowing bits from the mask itself emanating out, and you can actually locate Shay that way.
That's good to know.
Yeah. You don't see any magical glow coming from Heinrich's pocket.
Okay.
You would, sorry. You,
it's okay. It's fine. I figured.
No magics in his pocket.
I mean,
I got a lot of shit.
I'm gonna leave that where it is. But you look at the dagger, and there is this aura around it, almost like a hazy light that seems to spill off the blade itself, and it does feel as if it is from the Enchantment School of Magic. And I would say casting that spell, between the spell Detect Magic and the actual runes itself, and really considering it, you feel like this is a piece to a whole. And you remember again that the goblin said that this was a key. No, wait, not a key, a dagger. And that sort of kind of jumps out in your mind. This seems as if it's going to complete something more.
Why are we all right, I'm gonna be like whispering to him. How long is the walk from
where you guys are, from the pillar stairs to the Goblin Gables? Only it's like a 30-minute walk. You're going southward to the Goblin Gables.
So, okay, during this walk, why are we giving... This seems like pretty cool. Why don't we just keep this?
Well, here's the thing. They told me it was some sort of key to something. So I figure, at the very least, now we've got a bargaining chip. Because whatever this thing opens, lets us get access to, is of value to them. That's probably more valuable than this dagger itself. So, by getting the dagger, now we have all the cards.
Do we? It seems like they'll just take the dagger and open the whatever and keep the whatever, and then we get...
We're not going to take the dagger because we have the dagger. Now we set the terms.
Well, why don't we just go find the door?
They didn't tell us where the door was. Plus, I want to get that other stuff.
Dagger.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
would I have caught up? Would we have caught up with them?
Up to you guys. You guys are setting the pace for your own walk. So I mean, you're keeping them in front of you.
Well, it was just to get out of the pillar of stairs area, and then.
So after about 10 minutes, once you leave the barricade behind and the distant lights of the faint lanterns fade, you approach and catch up with Gunter and Morwen. Gunter and Morwen, you guys would hear the faint kind of clink of Heinrich's armor as he approaches.
Before the squares come. Yeah, why don't we just, instead of taking a cut, why don't we just get the whole booty?
Well, yeah, that's the plan, but I also want to get stuff from these goblins. I want to see that Kenku. Yeah, pretty good stuff.
Seems like a pretty.
And more, and you remember as he says this, as you first entered the Undercity, this strange Kenku that shouted out Kevin and then made the sounds of gold falling onto a surface. And that's the only Kenku that you can remember.
So are you telling me I went through dead bodies in a bathroom so you could talk to a senile Kenku?
I'm not the one telling you that. You told yourself.
I don't know.
And at this point, Heinrich and Shay now catch up to you.
So did you get whatever it was you were sending
Yeah,
her
it's
into potential
fine.
danger for?
You're gonna get your cut. Just relax.
I don't care about a
Jeez.
cut. I don't. You.
Oh, okay, I'll have yours.
Whatever.
Oh.
But what is this? What was so important? What is the thing that was retrieved?
How much did I tell you about it already? I honestly have no idea what I've made you privy to.
You said that you had a plan and there was something you needed to get, and then it somehow involved Morwen and
Oh yeah, we
the
got it.
goblins, and that it was just so you could talk to the Kenku again.
Well, yeah, but now things have changed.
Well,
So
what's changed?
all right.
Listen, I've been giving you a lot of trust on this.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm giving it to you. Just to, Okay, so to confirm, Morwen, you now get half, and I also get half. Good? Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to know if we're throwing ourselves into danger unnecessarily, please.
No. We got this.
You can assume
And
that's
I
a yes
take out
no
the
matter
dagger.
what.
Oh, also, you can... Well, Morwen, you get, right of refusal, but you can't read, so I was going to give Heinrich the book.
And I'll just take it anyways.
So as you take... Oh.
I'm getting nothing. I'm getting no information, and I just need to.
Morwen and Heinrich, go ahead and make we'll say dexterity checks, opposing dexterity checks.
I'm trying to be like, no, give him.
Yeah.
I'm like actively giving him the book.
So as you actively give the book to Gunter, these two paws dart out of the darkness and snatch it from your hands. And Morwen, you now hold a book.
You can't even read it.
It's mine.
Give it to the book nerd.
It's mine. I put it in my bag.
Okay, so you can add a book to your inventory.
All right, well, that's coming out of your cut.
What? Oh.
Yeah, that's part of it.
And the book hits you in the chest, Heinrich, as Morwen throws it at you.
Yeah, there we go. So, see, you got something out of it. Your hands are clean.
Read it to me.
Did you find anything out that you needed to find?
I did.
Very good. So now we just gotta go. We've got this dagger. The goblins want it, but I think it's more valuable for us.
Okay.
Because they said it was a key to something. And I think if we find what the something is...
Pretty important.
Gunter, are you holding the dagger out right now?
Yeah.
I'm like, Heinrich, go ahead and make a history check.
Yeah.
Also, presumably he can see and read the runes.
That's exactly what I'd be doing. 13.
Okay. With the 13, so elements of the runes kind of swim around for you for a moment. It's not a language, and so it doesn't transform for you. It does appear magical. What I will say is, as you're also holding the book, and you look down, you don't speak Elvish, right?
Speak no.
Okay, so the letters kind of reshape and form into common. And as they do, you see it reads out the miner's daughter. Unclear as to what this might mean.
How is this related to that dagger somehow?
I don't know. What's it say?
Well, it just says the miner's daughter.
How does a miner have a daughter?
The same way anyone has a daughter.
Okay. Anyways, I guess, yeah, you know what? I should have expected as much. So this was with the dagger?
Yeah, in a bathroom.
Well, the dagger was in it as a bookmark.
Well, what page was it on?
I don't know. That one? And I point at whatever page.
Gunter points at the book. It was like towards the middle. So
I'll flip through.
Like towards the middle.
For any... I mean, okay, so the two things that I want to do with this book, first flip through for any obvious markings or wherever, if there's like a scrape where the dagger was or something like that. And the other thing, eventually I want to read it. But
make an investigation check.
Okay. Hooray.
So, anyway.
Terrible. 8.
Okay.
Rolled a fucking 3.
You don't find any indentation of it. It's a well-worn book. The pages a little bit frayed and torn in places. The cover becoming a little bit threadbare, and you can see elements of the actual plating of the cover underneath the thread itself. But looking through it a little bit, it's a book called The Miner's Daughter, and it seems to be a biographical, like a fictional biography, kind of. It seems to be almost like historical fiction told from the perspective of somebody named Arista. Without really reading through it too much, you wouldn't be able to tell too much about it. But it seems to be, from her perspective, a fictional account of her life. Without reading it, make a history check for that name.
Okay. That's a 20.
Okay. Not a figure that immediately you recognize, but you do remember all of a sudden going back and thinking about it. Back when you were within the Zinni Monastery, when you were in Squall's End, and you had looked at this map briefly projected onto the wall from these sort of glass lenses the Zinni used to store information. Remember, you saw a map.
Yep.
This map seemed to detail the various original dwarven coals, the citadels that the dwarves formed as cities. And you remember that there was one called Citadel Ursatz, perhaps, and then you remember it flipping and kind of contorting and being called the False Citadel. And something about the name Arista and Cole Ursatz, it seems very similar.
Yeah, one of those scramble word puzzles.
Yeah, but aside from that, not too much. Without reading through more detailed, it would be difficult to determine.
Which I will certainly be doing when we get back to the inn.
You do have some spare time here and there.
Yeah.
I also weren't.
What was the name? Sorry, what was the name?
Arista.
Okay.
And, looping through it a little bit, you can see that there are mentions. It seems as if she almost has a title. You see here and there, she's called Arista the Heavy Hand.
She's got a fat hand.
Unclear.
And there was no,
just a
maybe she seasons
hand.
things really well, it's difficult to tell.
And, nothing obviously, when I flip through it, no cutout areas or no pictures.
No secret compartments. You don't see pictures. If you're looking for pictures, there are a few. You do see that there is, at one point, kind of towards the beginning, a picture of a dwarven woman. You can see hair that is intricately braided that goes to an iron ring that sort of the hair itself is braided into at the end. Not a pretty face, but certainly well defined. This is a strong woman. She's depicted in almost like a noble level of clothing. And you can see plate armor underneath, and the way that she's portrayed, very heroic. She is the hero in this story. And there are other little pictures of landscape, and you can see at one point like a what looks like chains coming off a wall. But again, you need to read it a little bit more carefully.
That's fine. I can do that later.
So
I make all of these notes to myself and say, yes, if this is a key, like you were saying, and it was in this book, which seems a little too mundane to have been kept together, I suspect we shouldn't hand that over to the goblins.
Well, not without
getting
something in
return. Might be a good idea to maybe lie and say we couldn't recover it, but find out what it went to.
Heinrich, are you?
I'm just trying to
my
help you because trust, and helping you means not letting you die or anything terrible befall you, and therefore me and everyone else. And, you see where I'm going with this.
You see joy on Gunner's face.
Little Peep growing up, right?
Oh, I'm so proud of you, Heinrich.
I don't know if that's a compliment. I will take it in stride. That's all I would suggest. If these goblins so desperately wanted this seems like a larger picture issue than even maybe
yeah.
comprehend.
Oh yeah. So here's
here's
what I'm thinking.
This over.
What?
I think we should reconsider giving the goblins this dagger, or maybe just not yet.
So here's what I'm thinking.
Hmm.
I'll go back to the gobos.
I'll obviously join.
You trail behind, keep a close eye, so if things go sour, you hold on to the dagger too, so that I'll go and talk to them, but I won't have it on me. That way, they won't have any cause to harm me, or else they won't get their dagger. We find out what we need to find out, and then determine if it's worth giving over to them or not. Yeah?
Sure.
Wait, who?
I feel more when you should secure and hold on to the dagger because you disappear easily and can't be found. And I rejoin Gunter as the whatever station I appeared to hold to the goblins.
The assistant.
The simple assistant, as it were.
Okay. Sure.
You could blame it on me being, too clumsy or not able to gain access or something along those lines.
We'll see how they react, and then we'll play them a bit.
Yeah, you can certainly do that. I can't understand a single word.
So
just leave the talking to me.
Yeah, so if I have this correctly,
yeah,
you guys are giving the dagger to Morwen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're gonna have Gunter and Heinrich approach the actual pillar itself to speak with the goblins.
Yes.
And am I following?
And the two of you can sort of keep a distance and observe, and stay hidden, in case things go south and we need help.
And then we kill a bunch of goblins.
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully none.
Hopefully not. Hopefully
we
it doesn't work out.
We don't want to turn an entire populace against us.
That's our plan B.
Again, for the fourth or fifth time.
Shay comes out.
I don't have to collect any more fingers.
And destroys all these goblins.
So am I only gonna know you need my help once someone hits you?
We should make a signal or something.
Signal is teeth flying out of Heinrich.
1 ouch. We're good. 2 ouches for.
I'll just, yell hot goss or something. I don't know.
So you want me to come running with the dagger when you say hot goss? Okay, let's do it.
Now don't bring the dagger. Find a place to keep the dagger safe and hidden.
Let me hold it.
Why don't we just?
I'll just.
Yeah, Shay, hold the dagger. Good idea. Do you need a cut?
No, I don't need a cut, Gunter. Just.
Okay, good.
Shay,
so currently,
maybe swiftly return and drop it off at the inn or something.
I'm just going back if that's the case.
Okay.
I will keep the dagger. I will find a place to hide nearby. In the event that it looks like it's a catastrophe, I will join, but otherwise I will stay hidden until you all extract yourselves.
It'll be fine.
Sounds perfect. I feel like I can extract Gunter and I if it's just the two of us quite easily.
Great.
It'll be fine. We'll be fine.
In the middle? Like Shay's got eyes on me, I got eyes on you.
No, you hide with Shay.
I hide with her?
Yeah, so you can see the two of you hide and see us. And then
so Morwen and Shay are going to go hide and observe. Heinrich and Gunter will go and interface with the goblins.
Right.
Yes.
And so with this carefully crafted plan in mind, because it is 10:45, we're going to take a little break. It's 10:43. We'll be back at 10:55. Let's call it.
Sure.
Cool.
Sounds good.
We'll see you at 10:55.
Okie dokie, bye.
Howdy, folks, and welcome back to Adventures in Alberon, our Dungeons & Dragons campaign. I'm your DM, Joe Treff. As always, we have Matt, Miles, Ali, and Tina joining us. Thank you to those of you who stuck with us through the break. As we announced before, for those of you active during the break, we're going to pick somebody to give away a Hero Forge figure to, custom made, whatever you want. We'll just send you the code, and you'll get a free figure. I think you still have to pay shipping. We're going to give it to everybody who is active in the chat. So, Das, Kobe, and Talon, I will send all three of you guys codes through the Twitch direct message or private message system. So sometime later tonight, once the show ends, you will get codes to free Hero Forge figures. Hero Forge, not a sponsor. So yeah, look out for that. It'll be a fun thing to do. You can get, if you don't know what Hero Forge is, you can design your own custom miniature. I can't use that one because you guys haven't seen it yet. But
well, just use me.
Show one of
you're in the carrying case right now.
Oh, grab my
Too late.
Again, Das, Talon, and Kobe, all of you guys are going to be able to design your own figure. It will be 3D printed and shipped to you. Tons of cool options. You can customize those poses, the clothing, the gear. So especially because Das, you just started a new campaign, perfect for you. You can get a Warman just up and running right off the bat. So, getting back into the game, when we left off, you guys were approaching the Goblin Gables. Now, to more solidify the plan for those of you trying to follow along, because it was a little bit complicated. When we had left off, Morlin had just infiltrated the pillar of stairs guarded from 3 different factions, very, very carefully maneuvered in past several dead bodies through a broken corridor and into an actual bathroom, and carefully retrieved a book and a dagger, which may have not been needed to be retrieved at all, because now this dagger is being held by Shay, who is lurking in the shadows, hidden from a vantage point, accompanied by Morwen, as they watch Gunter and Heinrich return daggerless to the goblins to potentially attempt to do some kind of a deal. We'll see what happens. So Heinrich and Gunter, the two of you approach.
Mm-hmm. And I do the whole segment person.
So you kind of follow like a little bit behind Gunter, acting as that subservient role of the Peebo, right, if you will. Yeah. So Gunter, as you approach, you could see a few of these goblins kind of turn, and you're seeing like little bits of shadow moving in the distance, and you're sure there are goblins now kind of moving to the sides of you as well. But
I'm going to cast tongues.
Okay.
Once again, I'm going to cast tongues.
Make a sleight of hand check.
I mean, we're far enough away that no one will be able to see you. Right?
Presumably.
That's
a
15.
Them beady eyes that see everything.
As you approach, you can see one of the goblins who had originally spoken to you. This one wearing these like patchy, almost red suspenders. It begins to approach, and then from behind him you can see a little bit of a larger shape, not taller, just girthier. And through the crowd of goblins, you can see this heavy set, still a goblin, but like his nose kind of like fatter in width and like drooping down heavily over his face. Very much like that kind of like Rocco's Modern Life, like snout almost coming down. Yeah, you can see the ears have almost been like tucked back as if they were hair, like slicked back. For a goblin wearing nicer clothing, still tattered, but looks like he is trying to give the impression of being of a higher station. Yeah. And as he approaches, you can see the other goblins do kind of shift and move out of his way. And he draws himself up to his full 3-foot height. And given how you guys had interacted before, turns to you, Gunter.
Yeah. I'm like,
give him the sus face.
And there's like a brief moment. You can hear like little bits of goblins chittering all around you, but there's this moment where the two of you kind of regard each other. And finally, after like a heavy 30 seconds of silence pass, and I would say, Shay, your passive perception is 17?
18.
18? you can see on either side of this meeting, there are like goblins kind of creeping up, and you count in total maybe 20, 22-ish goblins kind of surrounding in a ring. Morwen, you see like what looks like a bunch of little gnomes kind of like approaching and making a ring around. Sure. Finally, this larger goblin to you, Gunter. Why, hello. You must be the dwarf that they were all talking about, here to return the valuable dagger.
Right. Yeah, that's me.
Oh, very good. And as he kind of pops up, you can see like the belly strained against this fairly nice fabric that is just a little bit dirty. When he draws himself up again, you can see he like kind of the weight of him slowly pulls him back to a hunched position, but he does seem to be making an effort to stand up straight. Where is it then?
Well, here's the thing. I believe I may have found it. I've scouted out the place that you told me about, but before I can get it, I need to know that what I'm getting is the right thing. So could you give me a little bit more to go off of,
So you hear now...
Like, what's this thing look like? What's the dagger? Because, I may or may not have found a dagger that's yours. I just don't know because,
And so at this, you can hear behind him the goblins chittering back and forth to each other. And because you have tongues active, you do hear here and there little bits of words. You hear, like, as you say, what does it look like? You just hear dagger, 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 just throughout the crowd, kind of going throughout. You do hear the word lock, just kind of tossed out amongst that. What is your passive perception?
Passive perception is 19.
19. You hear one of the voices in the crowd just kind of speak out, and you hear, "We can finally unlock," and just kind of lost into the rest of it. But at this moment, he turns again. Well, you see, it is just a normal dagger made by dwarves. And
normal dagger made by dwarves, huh?
Yes, forked at the end. And like draws himself back up again.
Okay. Well, if it's a normal dagger, then I would assume that it has some sort of sentimental value to you or something that would make you want me to go through so much trouble as to get into, the place that I have already made myself capable of getting into easily once again.
You can see now the eyes, the beady goblin eyes, kind of squinting, starting to get a little bit confused and lost.
So, what is this dagger of so much import to you?
Make a persuasion check.
Here it is.
And Heinrich, you're just hearing like goblin noises kind of happening back and forth.
That's a 15.
15? Okay. He turns around and there's like 3 or 4 goblins behind him, and they begin talking in whispers amongst themselves. Are you trying to overhear what they're saying?
I'm not like making it very known.
Okay.
I'm like trying to do it discreetly, but of course I'm eavesdropping right now. I can hear and understand them, so I'm not like noticeably leaning in or anything. I'm just like, ooh, I'm listening.
Okay. You do overhear. You don't overhear too much, but you do overhear the words chief and the words secret mentioned. And then you see the larger goblin kind of just whack one of them on the head, and there was just, and the goblin hits the ground, and he just goes quiet. The goblin slowly rubbing his head, like climbs back up and looks like kind of resentfully, his ears back, almost like I think like Lilo and Stitch, when Stitch is angry, like the ears go back. But he finally, the larger goblin turns to you. Well, in the interest of cooperation, this dagger is something that the chief needs to further our goals. It will protect us from the foul users of magic who have leaked their way in from Colteron.
Like, what kind of magic users are we talking here?
Does it matter? They're all disgusting.
Yeah, but I mean, some magic could be pretty useful. Sometimes, maybe. Eh?
You can see there is no you're not convincing him of anything. And he leans in and just kind of says, do you know what we do to magic users around here?
Yeah, I think so. It's a pretty good stuff that you did. Make them feel pretty bad.
We cut them open. Yeah. And look for what gives them magic. So far, we haven't found it, but we will.
Yeah. I think it's probably in the diet.
I can't tell if you're joking or not. But can you get it?
Yeah, I could probably get it. So where's Kevin?
You can see his eyes kind of squint and he turns back, and one of the goblins, Heinrich, to you, it's just like this chittering noise. But you can hear him say, or Gunter, you can understand that he says, he means the Kenku. And then the larger goblin turns, yes. Kevin. We'll bring Kevin out to you and we can trade. The Kevin for the dagger.
All right, well, let me see Kevin, and then I'll go back and we'll try to get the dagger, right? Wait, what's the dagger for?
You've asked that, and as I said, it's something
it's
the
for
chief
the captain
requires.
Yeah, the chief. So who are you? You're not the chief.
I am not the chief. I don't speak in the third person.
Who's the chief?
Chief Schneek.
Well, where is he? Why am I talking to you? Why am I not talking to the chief?
Because you cannot talk to the chief. Who are you? You appeared in the Undercity less than a day ago, and you want to talk to the chief of the Goblin Gables. Nobody gets that privilege.
If you knew who I was.
Well, who are you?
I lean in real close.
He leans in, like also very close.
Have you heard? Like I said.
Go ahead and make a persuasion check at advantage.
Well, this is unexpected.
That is
no. That it's going so well is.
Persuasion. That's a 17.
Okay, so leaning in even further, his bulbous nose almost touching your old wrinkly one. You can hear him just say, and I would say you can now see Heinrich. This is becoming almost like all of a sudden whatever Gunter just said, this goblin's eyes kind of open, the eyebrows arching up. You mean the Dragon Slayer of Nocturne? Who hasn't heard of him?
I may have a way of getting you in touch with the gazelle.
Nobody's heard of the gazelle in longer than the chief's been alive. And he's been alive for almost 27 years.
You don't get to be 287 without meeting a few big people out in the world.
Big people?
Do you say that out loud?
No, I don't understand what
I
he's
say
saying.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you would hear the goblin and then Peeboo. It's not. There is no goblin word for Peeboo.
He said people.
Okay.
Big people.
He said gazelle, that's for sure. But
yeah,
no, I don't just randomly stand around and go, big Peeboo. Like
I do that all the time.
That's true.
All right.
Just like watching TV.
Nobody's seen the gazelle in more than 50 years. How would you get me in touch with somebody that nobody knows the identity of. Nobody knows if they're even alive.
Well, that's because he's good.
So I've heard. He slayed the last dragon to walk dominion.
Yeah, and now he keeps it low-key, but he has a web of associates. And
A web, you say?
they have a way of contacting one of said associates.
This is a little bit above Grot's pay grade, so
Well,
let
that's
me...
why I'm trying to talk to the chief. Now, chop, chop!
You can see now the ears on this fat goblin go back, and they're kind of weighty, so they do kind of wobble a little bit. And you can see now, actually, Heinrich, that the ears themselves are tied almost like a ponytail at the end to keep them in a slick back position.
To Heinrich, and I just go,
okay.
And I just kind of nod like, mm-hmm.
You, dwarf, need to remember where you are. You're in the Goblin Gables, and this is our territory. Kol Taram above may belong to your kind. But down here, 20 years is a long time to live for a reason. Mind your tone.
The people up there aren't my people. I just got here. And number two, whatever you think about it, I've got your way to the dagger. So, what's it gonna be?
We're always trying to get the dagger, and we will.
Yeah,
if you have a way to do it faster,
that's a quick and easy way to get to it for you.
If only I could understand and just nudge him along.
So far, dwarf, you haven't shown me anything. All you have is words. So until you have something to show, as you said, chop, chop. And you could hear all around you this little snickers from the goblins.
All right. You're lost then. And I walk away.
Okay, you do. Heinrich, you watch as
I would
Gunter
just like
kind
to
of nods.
take a moment. Can I ask? We were like that close to meeting the chief, and then he ruined it. Am I to understand that correctly?
Hard to tell.
Damn it. Okay.
So Gunter and Heinrich, you walk away and return, kind of meandering, not to directly go, but I would assume back to Morwen and Shay.
So I turned to Gunter. So how did it go? What did you find out?
Well, they want the dagger because of opening up some secret that the chief's got. And I think it's either the key or a lock with a key that he might have. I don't know. There's something about a lock and a key. This is probably the key. But
I would assume it doesn't look like a lock at all.
I'm questioning the point of this whole session right now. Just like, what have we done?
You guys have found a dagger. And
we have just followed what Gunter wanted to do.
Did they have that conversation with us, or was that on the way back?
They're on the way back. So at this point, you guys now rejoining the group. You coalesce as the Finger Gang up in this little ruined house.
So here's what I'm thinking. This is very valuable to the chief of the Gobos.
Shay is still holding the dagger.
What does it unlock?
Oh yeah.
What does it unlock?
I don't know.
And
whatever the chief.
So we didn't get any information out of that whole thing, other than there's a lock that this key goes to.
And the chief knows about it, but they wouldn't let me see the chief because they're goblins. They're being unreasonable.
How could you see the chief? Wait, are we all together?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay,
you could theoretically go back. You're already in with the people that we have the dagger from. We could tell them that the goblins have gone and stolen it and send them after the goblins. And we could just make off with the dagger. And once that's all dealt with,
so this wasn't even theirs originally, that place that...
Or we can just make off with it all together and ignore all of this and just continue forward.
What about there's a treasure?
I'm starting to... I'm starting to side with Shay on this. Plus, I still have my own matters to attend to that are a little more important than a key to somewhere where we have no idea, other than there's a chief that knows something about it who we have no idea where they are.
By the way, I forgot to tell you guys, I found my way into Colteron.
You did what? Is it through the gray water?
No.
Alright. Well,
What? Well, okay, let's regroup at the inn, and then I'm off during the evening while you guys that rest time. Yeah. Let's just go back there and regroup for a sec.
Shay, hand over the dagger.
Oh,
Let's
no.
head back.
I'm keeping this.
But what? You said you didn't want to cut.
If it's in any of our party
Consider it
members'
leverage, Gunter.
hand,
I've learned a few
fine.
things from you.
I'll give you
I
that.
kind of like approvedly like look and go, mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's touche.
Touche. I am walking off in the direction.
Wait, you don't want to hear about the way you...
I haven't had to do a mark in a while. This is the first time marking like 3
I was
sessions.
about to say, he better, because I've gotten so many.
Yeah.
Okay, Morwen, do you tell me about this way in? Let's go back and rest, and you can, chat with Krodok or something, and everyone can get rest. Because I'm assuming it's now been late enough or long enough, right? Do we have any idea?
Make an intelligence check. Make an intelligence. Well, I mean,
is everyone getting tired? It doesn't really matter what time of day it is.
At this point, I mean, you're not terribly tired. You're not looking at exhaustion, but I would say the last meal that you guys ate with a bunch of drinks was right around noon. So you guys would be getting hungry again.
Oh, I'll just pop one of those berries that we got from.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh my god. I
So
haven't not going to open the book. But.
You take one of these berries. And biting into it, it's almost tasteless, and there is this like very almost unpleasant gelatinous feeling to it as it breaks apart in your mouth. It doesn't break evenly. Parts of it kind of revert to liquid, and parts of it stay solid. But there's no taste. It is almost like water, but even water has a taste. There's just nothing to this, and it's almost hard to swallow. But as soon as you do, you feel that feeling of hunger just abate. And you are now considered fed for the day.
Hooray.
Did I watch him eat that?
You tell me.
Did I see him eat it?
I mean, I just kind of like popped one in absentmindedly.
I want one. Okay, now I'm just going to be like...
Sure.
You see like the little protruding like cat teeth coming down from that frown. And as you bite into it more, when it is just this tasteless, gelatinous kind of half liquid, almost like egg drop soup in consistency, but without any flavor whatsoever. But as you eat that first one, you feel full.
Belch.
And it kind of echoes off through the ruins of this particular stone house.
So, are we going back to that creepy place?
Yeah, let's go see the ghosts.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So where are you guys going?
That's where I'm
Back
going.
to the inn. Yeah.
Okay.
Back to the inn.
Shay is going to the inn. Heinrich is going to the inn.
Morwen, I would like if you could explain to me the way into Colteron on the
I
walk.
guess I'll stay in the
leave Gunter
GameCube.
alone.
He'll come. He's coming.
Gunter, what are you doing?
Gunter's coming.
I'm gonna go with them, but I'm not staying in the house. I'm too creeped out by it. I'm gonna stay in the GameCube.
Okay.
The game.
We'll get there in a second. So you guys make your way back.
The little portable shelter that Gamble gave him. He calls it the Gam.
Because everything I make, you guys destroy.
I mean, that was on him.
Yeah. So you guys return, taking your way back, and as you're walking back from the Goblin Gables, it's about 25 minutes. So over the course of that time, is there anything that you would like to do? You're largely walking through like ruined buildings until you get to the area surrounding the statuary, and thus the Gentle Repose, and then it kind of just reverts to blank. But yeah, you guys have 25 minutes.
Sorry.
Oh, I want to hear the way in. I'm nudging you about it.
All right, so for the whole 25 minutes, I'm going to talk about my experience at the bar before I find out. and just be like blabbing. Be like, oh my god. And then there's this dwarf, and I just asked where he lived, and he was like, oh, this is moving fast. I was like, what do you mean? I'm gonna do that for like 25 minutes.
Okay.
And then right when we get to the door, I'm be like, and so then
And I'm just, there's an expression on my face.
As the awning and the stained glass window are coming into view.
Yeah, I think it's more like a point of view from the porch. You just hear like, and just like my face is like, yes, and then,
yeah, I overheard these guys talking about like a door behind a portrait, and like we could go through it, and then it's a prison in Colteron.
But where's this portrait?
Isn't that crazy? That dwarf.
Where is this portrait? What? There's a hidden way. Good. This is good. Where is this portrait?
What?
The portrait. Where is it?
Oh, it's a. Okay, so is Doldrum the person who owns the house?
Yeah, Doldrum.
Doldrum's house.
Oh.
That's the Clanrock guy.
But wasn't that dwarf being super weird?
Yeah, it's strange. Very strange. Okay.
I thought so.
So if we find our way in there, we at least know there's a way out through the back that also goes where we want to head. Okay, well that's good information. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just gonna like kind of walk in and make note of it.
Okay. So you guys enter, and as you do, immediately eager to greet you, standing actually at the door. So as you open it, she has to kind of move back a little bit. But the black suit-clad drow, Cinder, Cindariel, who owns the Gentle Repose. Welcome, all of you. Does anybody require anything? Do you need food, drink?
Both.
Of course, right away.
Oh, you're right. Skip the food.
Wait, what?
So, no on the food, or?
I'm hungry.
I am all set. Thank you.
Yeah, bring out some food.
I'll bring out some light snacks.
There's probably food in the GameCube.
Never mind. Don't bring out the food.
No food.
Very decidedly moving past all of it and just going upstairs.
Okay, you just walk
I'm gonna linger
around
behind
the desk
like,
across the tile floor.
Shay,
I'm gonna linger behind and be like,
okay, so you and Shay going upstairs.
If we continue staying here, you'll get used to it as I have.
I'm simply delighted to finally have guests at the Gentle Repose. Such a beautiful establishment determines the best clientele, and I have it.
Wonderful. And we'll take how about just a round of wine? Does that sound like a bottle for at least, I don't know, who's standing around me still? Is it just Morwen?
Where's Billy?
Yeah. I'd be like, yes.
Last that you saw him, he was in the lounge.
Well, we can just retire or go there and see if he wants anything as well.
Are you referring to your friend?
Yes.
He took off about an hour ago. There is a note, I think, in there for you.
Oh.
No, he said he was back to the road again and was off somewhere, so I imagine in the city. But he did leave a note in there for you.
Okay.
He did pin it to the table with the dagger.
Interesting.
Table.
Billy.
It's a very nice table.
Not in charge of him. Let's. Yeah,
and I kind of like. Song about me. I never got to hear it. What the hell, man?
Right. I'm gonna.
What? And she points to you, Morwen. What is your name?
Morwen.
I believe the note pertains to you.
Ooh, gimme.
I would never have read it, so it's over there.
It's appreciated. If you could bring a bottle of wine and I guess at least 2 glasses.
And from behind her, she pulls out a bottle of wine. Green glass, and it seems to kind of be a little bit more viscous than the one that you're used to. And then kind of puts that to the hand that she always has at her chest, reaches back again and produces 2 wine glasses.
I guess I'll take them and we'll
Hands
go
them
sit
to you.
down.
Okay, and you guys head off towards the lounge.
Interesting form of service, but all right.
You hear from behind you, tell me again if you need anything. I'll be in to check on you.
Of course, thank you. And we'll sort of like briskly walk in and retrieve the note, pulling the dagger out from.
So you see, it's one of the like knives that it was provided for your guys' food earlier. It's not like a combat dagger. This is like a steak knife that is plunged through a piece of fairly rough parchment, and you can see at the top, because of the way the parchment is curled, you can just see one letter, but in fairly intricate writing and large, you see more.
Okay, I mean,
the page kind of curls over,
and then open it up.
Sure.
I'll read it out loud too, so Lauren can understand it.
I'm excited.
I'll clear my throat all theatrically.
Oh, okay. Maybe I didn't pick it up. Give me one second. Let me pull it up.
That's cool.
So it is a song, and it is entitled Morrowind Song, and you can see in like fairly chicken scratch writing in common, work in progress next to that. There is initials underneath that, which are NW. I have to keep reminding myself now because I've messed myself up about it. Okay. And as you begin to read this out, what Heinrich says is, I'm just going to read it out loud because I guess he wouldn't know the tune to it.
No, yeah, exactly.
But it is Morwen, oh Morwen, the timid black feline, taking shelter and set a tremble just about all the time. She can pick a lock and talk real smooth, but she wouldn't stand a prayer without her lover, the Aarakocra, standing over there. Morwen, oh Morwen, you think we didn't know, but between the slugs and the leather armor, pajamas sure do show. A yellow fabric with little pink smiles and messy bedtime hair. It ain't a wonder that when she sleeps, she suffers from nightmares. And then you can see like the beginnings of writing that's been scratched out, but that seems to be about where he's ended up.
And I kind of clear my throat and let her take the parchment and just kind of, yes, anyway, and I start opening the bottle of wine.
And I just look at him, I hope we make eyes and just being like, we're never talking about this.
There's a nod.
Sure.
It's sort of like, yeah, that wasn't comfortable.
Fair enough. And so in this warm space, you take the scroll and just kind of stash it away. You can add Morwen Song to your inventory. I'll send you a copy of it if you want.
So that berry was awfully tasty.
Yeah. For those of you following along at home, if you want, the song is actually set to the tune of Hey Porter by Johnny Cash. Not a sponsor. Yes, is Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash not a sponsor. Been dead for a couple of years, and you know, I love Johnny.
Because the state would really care too much.
No. So as this is all happening upstairs, Shay and Gunter, as you approach, the door opens, and standing there is Krodek, who, hearing Gunter approach, opened the door. Sky Sister, welcome back.
You will
Are you
not
well?
believe these people. I kind of like.
Are you saying that in common or
in Zinni?
Okay. And you can see he looks forward, his head comes back, and you can hear like the kind of sound. And he turns and looks at you, Gunter.
Has it only been 25 minutes since we left the...
It has indeed. You still have Detect Magic up?
No, I still have tongues up.
Oh, tongues up. So yes, you would.
Tongues up.
So you hear Shay say, "You wouldn't believe," and like storm in. But yeah, you understand all of that. So
I'm gonna be turns. Like, oh yeah, in Zinyi, but not even realizing it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. These goblins, they're terrible.
Gunter.
What? What's up, buddy?
And Krodek turns to you, Shay, and seems to be gesturing almost like an inquiring look. And you
I'm
being so familiar,
pulling the spear off of my back at this point and coming at Gunter like, go downstairs.
Wait.
Almost less than a second after that, you can see like one motion. Krodek also, the spear detaches from the magnetic housing that Gamble provided him, and is now there are two spears, one on either side of your neck.
Like, whoa. We're all friends.
Go
What's up?
downstairs now.
Wait. You took the dagger, and I give you that. But for both our sakes, let me at least look at it while you're supervising me so we can find out more about it.
Not
it's
tonight.
dwarven.
Go away, Gunter.
It's dwarven. I want to see
it. You can see Krodek's his bird-like eyes kind of darting first to Gunter, and his head just kind of quickly turning back and forth, trying to figure out what's going to happen.
Do we hear the commotion from downstairs?
You do not. This isn't terribly loud.
I'm just staring staring Shay down.
Shin or something.
I'm gonna take the blade of the spear and just very up.
So, Gunter, you feel the coldness of this spear, very smooth, very sharp, press up into your skin, and at the very tip of it, you can see just a single drop of blood bead out.
And they're like, I know you could kill me whenever you want. You think you're gonna try to intimidate me with that? You're gonna need to do something more impressive.
You don't want me to.
I'm gonna start walking upstairs with my wine. I just want to see how everyone is.
I suppose I would sit down and start reading.
Okay, fair enough. So we're gonna get back to the reading in a second, but Morwen, it's gonna take you. It'll take you about a minute. So give it a second.
Your choice, Gunter. You can force this, or you can walk away.
What am I gonna need to do?
To walk away for the evening.
That dagger.
We'll discuss the dagger tomorrow. But if I surely run you through with this, there will be no discussion.
I'm gonna look over at Krodok and be like,
From Krodok, with the spear pointed at your neck, you can see Krodok, his shoulders with the wings kind of attached, just kind of.
all right. Look back over at Shay, then over at Krodok and be like,
Don't escape on him.
I'm not.
Don't.
Hey, you remember who got that for you in the first place?
I'm going to smooch the spear just a little bit.
It's enough so that under the pressure of it kind of forces you to turn your head away a little bit.
I haven't had a good shave in a while.
Have I made it up there yet?
This is such a long
At this point, I would imagine that yes, more when you approach, you come to the door and you have Krodok and Shay both holding spears to Gunter's neck. Like a little trickle, like a single drop of blood is now kind of run down Gunter's neck and is slowly making its way towards the hemline of his robe.
So I'm gonna walk in. I've got my glass of wine, and I just peek in and be like, "Hey, what's up? Oh, bad time. All right." Just turn around and go back downstairs.
Okay. So that happens.
No, I feel bad. I turn back around when I get down to the bottom of the stairs. I'm making my way back up.
I'm just wondering what Morin's doing, traipsing up and downstairs.
Gunter, are you doing anything in the roughly 15 seconds that Morwen is gone?
I look over at the door, and then I'm like, And then I stare back at Shay for a second, and then I'm like, okay. Okay. And I walk away.
Okay. So, adding to the theme of this episode, nothing happens. And you walk away, and as you walk away, you kind of come face to face with Morwen in the hallway.
Hey, buddy. What's going on?
I just wanted to look at the dagger. She won't even let me do that.
I can try to
coming over here, commandeering it. She said she didn't want a cut. And then she comes and gets a cut.
She gave you a cut.
I don't know how to help you. I give him my wine.
Always resorting to violence, that one.
I'm gonna take some of the wine.
It's a glass, but yeah. So you take the glass of wine, you take a sip of it. It's an interesting wine. It's thicker than you would imagine, and though it is this sort of white, a little bit bitter with notes of sweetness towards the end, it's almost like there's it's not mead, but it has mead qualities to it. Depending on how Gunter likes mead, it's either good or bad. But it tastes like it probably is fairly expensive.
Is it a Sauterne? I'm not going to go down that hole. Never mind.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me of an announcement I need to make at the end.
Oh, okay.
Well, what's up?
No, just so not sure what your plan with the dagger thing is, or anything.
Now that I don't have it, I guess there's not much of a plan, except on the wings of as you are.
What?
When she's the one who's always complaining about wasting time.
Well, I'm thinking if we're able to get through this Doldrum's house and stuff, there's got to be some nice things in there we can get.
Oh, the Clanrock guy?
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, Doldrum Clanrock.
They're like rich guys.
Matt
right?
knows it's cold rot.
I hope so.
Gunter does not.
Sometimes I really do confuse the two.
I think
it's
actually
so hard
I knew
to
that.
tell.
I know that it's
With the way
cold
this
rot. So
episode
yeah,
went.
the cold rot guys, they're like pretty rich, right?
Oh yeah, they're like the head honchos around here.
Yeah, I say we take that direction and we just grab a bunch of stuff and scoot down
I feel like
to Calderon.
In fairness, the goblins really wet our whistle, but they're small fries around here. We're in the Undercity.
You're talking scams.
Now that we're warmed up, I think we can probably go after those clamrots.
And they're gambling men, right? We know a thing or two about gambling.
Oh, gambling men? Yeah.
Who are you nudging?
No one.
A ghost. I'm hoping a ghost is there.
You feel no resistance.
Was it you or I who heard about the secret gambling den?
That was you from the goblins if you got the dagger.
Oh yeah.
They told you they had a way to sort of fix the games.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that. You know that.
Yeah. I think about that, but as of right now, cannot connect that scheme to this scheme.
Fucking hell.
Scheme chains.
So, Heinrich, as you sit in the lounge of the Gentle Repose, the gentle crackling of fire warming you, you page through this. You're reading the book that you just got?
Yep.
Oh, should we head downstairs?
Pretty like
Okay, so you guys begin to head
pretty
downstairs.
close attention.
Sherry, are you staying in the room?
Yes, and once Gunter's gone, like shutting and like locking the door.
Okay. There's like a little slide lock, and so you slide lock it. Having seen Gunter break a great many things, you'd imagine if he wanted to get in, he could. But for the moment,
slow him down for a minute.
Sure.
On the walk over to, or walking downstairs, I'm going to be like, that toilet. Do you think that's the shitting pot that Chronic was talking about the other night?
No, I think you should probably just forget about that. Give him just.
I don't know if I can.
He doesn't know. He's like a.
You guys are like down the stairs now.
He's a sheltered child. You gotta work with him. He doesn't understand the world, so he says things that he may have picked up somewhere.
This is as Gunter and Morwen enter the actual lounge.
You gotta just give him. He means well, right? And that's what you want, right? It's all working out for you.
I've just never heard him talk like that, so it's just where did he get that from?
So Heinrich, as this is happening and this is them coming in, but before that, you do get about 10 minutes alone to read. And you learn the basics of it. It's about a woman named Arista the Heavy Hand, dwarven royalty, and this sort of revolutionary figure actually during a time in which the dwarves were imprisoned by the giants. And there is talk about how during this time of imprisonment, she was sort of this figure that rose up, was subsequently cut down, and became sort of the rallying cry of the dwarves, who eventually obtained freedom and created this sort of city in her honor, known as Kol Arista. And there's more to it, but in that quick bit, you get sort of like the first couple of bits, and you kind of get a basic outline of the book, flipping through.
And that's a fictional city in terms of based on the map that I have.
Hard to tell. As far as you can tell,
cross-reference it.
So I mean, it without reading a lot more, you don't get like a location. But there's a lot of similarities between Col Aristat and Col Arisats. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's not Ursats? How do you spell that city? The Citadel?
So on the map, it's Ursats, but on what you are reading...
Ursats, right?
Arista is E-R-A. S-T-A. Arista. And that is the figure, Arista, the heavy hand, and also Col Arista, the city that was built, were named in her honor. But you don't get a lot of details about the circumstances surrounding that, where it might be, because Gunter and Morwen come in talking about this naive child. And so the three of you now find yourselves within the lounge.
I'm still reading. I'm just ignoring them.
Cool.
As per usual.
Yeah.
Is there more wine on the table?
There's the bottle of wine, and then Heinrich has a glass of wine.
I'm going to take the bottle.
Okay, yeah. So you take a half-empty bottle, half full. I guess it depends on how optimistic you're feeling. But you get half a bottle of wine.
Soon it's going to be whole empty.
Sure, whole empty. Not just empty, whole empty. Okay.
So yeah, I'm going to just be like, start drinking out of the bottle.
Sure. Very sweet, kind of heavier wine. You notice, Gunter, little elements of kind of maybe clove or something underneath.
Good mead.
I'm thinking we should bring Croddock to go gamble with us. Show him some, bring out his wild side.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
You and him pose as a couple. Get in there. You pull a couple tables, play some games, have some fun. I'll go in, play the unwitting elderly dwarf trying to bet his life savings, We get some scams going, we make some money.
Split it down the middle.
Yeah, I like the way that you're thinking. Okay.
I get up and I close the book, kind of like in one of those moments.
How you liking your cut?
That's a terrible idea, you two. You should never do that. Just stop this right now. We're not here to gamble. And I storm out of the room.
Hey,
I storm out of the room and I go upstairs to the room to read more.
It's the Undercity. You just enjoy your cut.
And when he walks away, I'm just going to be like, and I thought he was coming around.
So,
I know.
Heinrich, you make your way upstairs. Shay, you hear stomping and like the ching, ching, ching of this ring mail as Heinrich storms up.
I would be muttering to myself, maybe audibly, to the point where she might be able to hear it, be like, I can't believe it. They would just never stop thinking about anything but that. Like, this is...
I'm like,
this is a very dangerous place.
Taking off the crap, but I'll nod to Croddock and be like, if he wants in, you can let him in.
And so Croddock nods back to you, and Heinrich, you enter, and you can see half smudged.
Well, I would
black.
enter, and then it would just not enter because it's locked.
Oh, actually, fair point. So as you kind of,
I would go to open the door and bump my head into it, be like, oh, and I just.
So yeah, Shay, you hear this kind of, and then Croddock looks to you for a second, and then goes over and unlocks the door and opens it. Hello, Heinrich.
They're scheming again.
Pulls back and sort of gives you room to enter, but tilts his head very
I gave them
questioningly.
a little bit of leeway. I went along with Heinrich for a bit and figured maybe a little bit would sate him for a little while. I guess I was wrong, and they're already planning on scheming to go back to some gambling den and make a mess of everything and possibly get us all killed. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and I would very much like it if we could all maybe go down and just corral them away from this terrible idea that will certainly end horribly.
Heinrich, because you were not here, I very nearly put an end to Gunter just a moment ago. If I
I'm
go
not
down
surprised.
these stairs, it will happen.
Fine, I'll just read it alone.
Okay.
I just
so Heinrich enters,
turn around,
turns and goes to the room next door, the other room that you guys had rented.
Yeah.
And shutting the door behind you, you now have a very quiet place to read.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Gunter and Morwen downstairs. What are you guys doing?
Okay, so I'm really good at cups, right? Maybe we could find a table with that, and I'll do a little, like, sleight of hand. There's nothing even under any of the cups. The fools will never even know.
Ah. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, I can do pretty much whatever. So I think I'll do a little bit of a grab bag, see what they've got, see what's the most, most schemable.
And maybe we can get some insight on this doldrum, and find out where he lives, his office.
Yeah. Maybe get some info on where his valuables are.
Mm-hmm. And then we have to find that portrait right behind it.
Portrait.
I don't know. There's a portrait in his office that apparently behind it leads to a entry to a prison in Golderon.
Ah. What's gonna be in a prison of any value to us in Golderon?
Aren't we trying to get there?
I mean, eventually, I guess, but why would we want to show up?
On the way here, Gunter was like, we need to get there. We need to get to this dragon. We need to end this. And as soon as he
mind wipe
somewhere with a little,
mind wipe. Now I don't give a shit.
I mean, why would you? You don't remember any of it.
Well, the dragon's haunting me now.
Yeah.
So I give a little bit of a shit.
You haven't
would like
slept
to go.
since, so you don't know if it's still going to affect you.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
it's still affecting me that it happened once.
That's true.
We'll go eventually, but look, I just don't see the value in entering into a prison, because then we're there, but we're in prison.
When has a locked door ever stopped us before?
That's 3 shays.
I don't get it. So
I don't get it either. I'm trying to figure
out.
out.
I do. No, touche instead of.
Oh, wow. That's great.
But Morin. So, also, I have this note, but I kind of forget.
Sure.
Cage of Might match? Was that
That's
here?
the fighting match in the dark, or
So
hive.
around the Dark Hive,
Dark
there
Hive,
is this sort of market that I believe Heinrich and Gunter, you guys walked by it, kind of fenced in, looked almost like a bazaar of some kind. And then there was this large iron structure, for the most part windowless, had stairs going up to it and appeared closed and empty. That was the Cage of Might. And you would remember Gamble saying it is a sort of
Thunderdome.
Yeah, it's a organized fighting ring where you could fight for money, or you could actually fight to the death if you wanted to do a steel match. But that's what the Square of Might is. The Cage
that's
of Might,
it?
can't remember. Yeah,
Thunder Square.
I mean, I'll tell you about it, but
okay.
Just cause.
So
Now I'm
Morin
just gonna
relays
start
to you.
blabbing.
Okay, so Morin relays to you that there is this, underground fighting pit, and that it's this large kind of cube of iron. She tells you a little bit about the dark market, and that there, is empty tables there at the moment. But beyond that, she would also explain to you that there is this large pillar with bricks that have the edges kind of rimmed in gold.
Gold. Well, all right. We'll put that in the back pocket, but one scheme at a time. I think the gambling den sounds a little less violent, and I don't really feel like getting on the tail end of a spear anytime soon.
Yeah, what'd you say to her to do that?
I just wanted to look at the dagger. It's our dagger. It's a dwarven dagger. I want to find out what it's about. Why the goblins? It's wasting time not letting me look at the dagger, because I could figure out what the goblins need it for. Yeah, she doesn't think about that.
Did
but
you ask
I'm the bad guy.
Shay, I like how you have a leash for Gunter now.
I said, I want to see the dagger. I said that I would let her supervise.
Did you say please when you asked?
The word please may not have escaped my mouth. However,
I think that might have been your problem.
I like how it even glitched when you tried to say please. It's so appropriate. Your stream stalled out for a second. It's like Gunter saying please still can't exist in this world.
However, despite my courtesy, I was forced to leave with a spear at my neck. Now tell me, which of us is more rude?
Long sip of wine. You see the last bits of this golden liquid just drain down Morwen.
I also am finishing the rest of the bottle.
Go ahead and make a Constitution saving throw for me. At advantage because you are a dwarf and alcohol is poison.
As is tradition, we are our biggest threat.
A 15.
15. You feel the alcohol hit you. This is not terribly alcoholic, but you do drink half a bottle of it. And so, all at once, there's a warmth that kind of flushes to your face more, and you can see across the pale, wrinkly skin this slight flush grow, almost
Plus
as
I
if
lost a little bit of blood.
Yeah, you did lose a little bit of blood. There's this kind of trickle.
A drop is precious when you're 287.
Yeah, he's gonna run out pretty soon. He's like shriveling up. But what do you guys want to do? It is now getting close to, you don't know the exact time, but it is night. And you are drawing not into the late hours, but kind of towards the middle of it.
I feel like internal clocks are going to be best in turn, like if we're getting
tired. And you're starting to feel tired. Not exhausted by any means, but certainly tired.
So I'm feeling a little buzzed myself, I'm sure, because I've been doing a lot of day drinking specifically. Mm-hmm. So I'm just gonna be like, because he's pink. You're drunk.
Oh, okay.
Heinrich isn't here.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm gonna go check out the Gam Cube.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I'll go set it up out back or something.
Yeah, let's see what's out back.
I'm sure there's plenty of room around there.
Yeah, there is.
All right.
You guys are in like a barren, empty part of the Undercity, save this one Victorian structure. And so you guys...
Oh, sorry.
So you guys want to exit and kind of go around to the back?
Yeah.
Okay. You walk around to the back of the structure, which you have actually not been to yet. And in the back,
is Cinder anywhere around? And we're like, hey, Cinder.
As you walk by, you would walk by the desk, and Cinder is sitting there. Yes.
Let me get another bottle of that.
Right away. And from behind her back, she produces another full uncorked bottle of wine and presents it to you, Gunter.
And how about like 12 sausage links?
That's an oddly specific number, but I can fetch more. And she roots around for a little bit, and she pulls 4 of them.
That's fine. Never mind.
Very well. And
I just wanted to see if you could do it.
Disappear behind her back. Well, one of the things that I do pride myself on is excellent service, and the Gentle Repose attempts to cater to all guests' requests.
All right. Well, we're going out back.
Very well. I'll be here if you need anything. All right,
I take a swig,
pop the cork, and
pass it over to Morwen as we walk outside.
Sure. So as the two of you walk out, just drinking from the bottle, I need Constitution saving throws as you guys are just kind of the whole thing, like, fairly quickly is diminishing.
Good thing I have advantage.
Yeah.
I have 14.
Okay.
I have Constitution. Ooh, that's a 12.
Okay, so Morwen, you're feeling the warmth begin to come into your skin, and things are getting a little bit more relaxed, and you feel a little better about the song that you found written about you. But turning to Gunter, you can see he's starting to list a little to the side. And Gunter, you are intoxicated. And so at this point, things are not getting woozy for you, but you're finding that your balance is starting to go already at 287, probably not at its peak. And so you are kind of stumbling a little bit here and there, but you guys make your way out to the back. And Gunter coming to
water thin.
Yeah, and so coming to like a stop, almost falling over. You come to an area in the back that is, you can see like there were at some point maybe benches, although now there's just like little bits of stone kind of here and there, but still as barren as the area around it. You want to drop the gam cube?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stand there for a second, looking at the ground, take another little swig, reach into my pocket and pull out the cube and just sort of like toss it on the ground in front of me and be like, yep.
And you speak the command word, I'm assuming?
Oh, yeah. What was the command word?
Thank you, Joe.
Oh, I don't think I haven't made a command word because I.
So what is it going to be?
Oh man.
What is drunk Gunter gonna make it?
Wow, and what should the command word be?
Have you already dropped the cube?
No, I'm still holding it.
Okay.
I was about to throw it, but now I'm like, wait. What's the command?
Yippee!
No, that's silly.
More wine, please.
That's 3 words.
Cinder.
No, I don't like her.
Just make sure it's not yeet.
Yeet.
No, don't actually do that.
What are you doing?
This is so important.
Gam!
Gam.
So as Gunter releases the cube, it spiraling end over end before it hits the ground, you hear Gunter yell out, "Gam!" And I would say, Shay, you definitely hear this. Everybody hears this. And Gunter, even as it spins end over end, it seems to almost stretch in shape. And as it hits the ground, it's already larger, almost like a 5-foot square of just metal plating. And similar to the table that you saw unfold when Gamble was providing you guys with food, this thing, and it seems like more and more plates slide one from the other, impossibly small in the cube form, but coming out to shape a roughly 10 by 10 metal cube. The metal of this looks rusted, but it's actually just the imperfections of the metal itself. And in a way, it's almost kind of you're seeing it almost purposeful in ways. With Drunk Gunter's mind, kind of difficult to really narrow it down. You'd imagine with stone cutting in a sober state, you might learn a little bit more about it. But in front of it, there is a very simple metal door with a what looks like an iron doorknob. There is no key that you can see. What do you want to do?
Take another swig.
That's pretty neat.
Shall we go check out the inside?
Yeah, let's rage.
Okay. So as you approach this cube and open the
Christmas
door,
lights and everything.
entering this cube. So first of all, Gunter, you can you learn a little bit more about this cube as you use it.
Okay.
It's a 10-foot by 10-foot cube in which up to 9 small creatures can occupy. If you try to have a large creature enter it, the spell will fail.
Okay.
You cannot see into or out of this cube, which is in this way different than Liamin's tiny hut. Additionally, spells do not travel through it in either direction.
Oh.
Additionally, this cube does have a certain number of hit points. You do not know how many. It is a sturdily made structure.
Okay.
But it can be broken.
Okay.
And kind of now that you look around the space, it is empty, but you would imagine anything that you leave in here will probably stay in here.
Huh. I wonder what happens if you're in here when it gets small.
Make an intelligence check. At disadvantage because you are drunk. Both exactly the same. I have no indication as to what's happening.
That was intelligence. Straight int is
flat int
6.
6. If objects are fine, probably organic matter's fine too.
They're objects after all.
Yeah.
Well, only one way to find out.
What?
Do we have to do that right now?
I mean, I guess if you want to stand outside, then you can see what.
I mean, I don't want to be in here when it gets smaller.
I guess that's true. We should try it on someone else.
Yeah, let's try it on like.
But wait. Oh my God, Shay, this is the way we can keep them in check. We can just keep them in our pocket. Just literally, GAM! And then...
Pocket cleric.
Or kill us.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Some horrible Pokemon.
Yeah. I literally just release a torrent of blood and fur.
Yeah.
Let's
You're extruded
tomorrow.
out from the seams.
Try it on a goblin or something.
Oh!
It's a trap.
I just got
my
a great idea.
My dude, it's a fucking trap.
Through the fog of the drunken stupor that Gunter is in, an idea crystallizes in your head.
We give the goblin the dagger inside the box. That's where we say we have the drop-off. And then when he's in here, we squish him.
This is actually amazing.
And then you'll have a dagger and a dead goblin. So that's,
This is amazing.
Perfect.
I mean, if that's the plan, well, why don't we just skip killing him and just keep the dagger?
Because we gotta find out what he needs the dagger for. And then we gotta squish him, because I want to find out what the box does.
Okay, let's do that tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do it in the morning.
Oh, and he knows where the dagger's treasure is.
Uh-huh.
You can see already within the space of the GAM cube,
Sorry, Joe.
Morwen beginning to kind of curl up and grow very sleepy.
I'm gonna take another look around, see what amenities are in the game cube, and then probably settle in for the evening.
You count 4 walls, the ceiling, and believe it or not, there's a luxury of a floor. And in the corner, now slowly kind of falling asleep is Morwen. Aside from that, not much. There's probably, presumably, some atmosphere in here, maybe some oxygen, a little bit of nitrogen, trace amounts of argon.
All right, I'm gonna take all my cold weather gears and make a nice little bundle bed out of them.
Yeah, you have 3 sets of cold weather gear, right?
I have 4.
Great, yeah, no problem. You form a makeshift cold weather nest.
Yeah, and then I'm just gonna sort of snuggle up and be And then as I'm going to bed, I'm going to fold my hands. I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to cast Sending one more time.
I love that that's how you're casting Sending. Who is the recipient, and what do you say?
Well,
I also meant to say this. So just because, this is something Sending ends up being used fairly often in most campaigns with people who have access to it. So I want to establish the rules of Sending, just so we know them. When you send a message, you send a message of 25 words or fewer to a recipient of your choice. They can then respond immediately with 25 words or fewer.
Yeah.
Those are the rules of Sending, and you already know that there is a chance that it will not make it to its recipient should they be on a different plane.
And I'm also in the GAM cube, which doesn't allow magic, but I don't know that necessarily.
Correct. And it may still work across dimensions and stuff too, right?
And I also don't really know that I'm casting Sending. I'm just offering up my prayers to useful Scott.
Okay.
Scott, if you're out there, I haven't forgotten about you.
Wait, is
I
this
could use your help sometime.
So let me check something then. Sending is making me go back to notes all the time.
Also, are you saying this out loud?
Yeah, but I'm snuggled up and I'm kind of whispering it like I'm praying under the covers.
Remember, you guys are in a 10-foot by 10-foot space, so probably Maureen can hear you in a metal box.
But I'm sleepy, so I'm just gonna be like, "It's
I'm also
I'm here, buddy."
drunk Gunter saying this,
so it's fairly audible.
Yeah,
slurred but audible.
Yeah.
You cast this message out.
You're always useful, and I need you back on the squad. So get your act together.
And then I go to sleep.
Okay.
But still fit within 25 words. I was counting. Don't worry.
So you cast that. You can mark off the spell slot. So you and Morwen are asleep. Heinrich, you are reading the book.
Yeah.
And Shay, you are presumably finding rest, or do you have other business to attend to?
I have another thing that I'd also like to do too. But
sure.
I can get that after.
I think before I actually fall asleep, I would go next door and like knock on the door.
Okay. So Heinrich, you hear soft knock on the door.
Get up from the bed and walk over.
But Shay, how did you know he wouldn't? What if he was asleep?
Ha ha!
Lucky guess.
Oh. Shay.
I wanted to apologize for my behavior earlier. Not that you necessarily were the recipient, but.
Well, and what? Oh, with Gunter?
Yes.
I understand. He can be very difficult sometimes. I don't think that on his behalf I could accept the apology, but
it's not. I apologize for my tone with you over his behavior.
That I accept and I understand, and you don't need to worry. I know your training and your upbringing kind of, you never had to deal with people like him, so it's a bit trying.
Not never, but
well.
Shay, there's a very particular individual who comes to your mind. A certain mountain elf.
But yeah, I do understand. I will say some rudder of his that he may not even understand has steered him this far, so I'll be honest, earlier I gave him the benefit of the doubt and trusted him, and it ended up being okay. Maybe sometimes we could give him a little bit more of a break. Within reason, of course, nothing that would directly endanger ourselves, but I'm starting to try to balance what I feel is right and what he does randomly that may not be so bad just because it's him that's doing it, if that makes any sense.
All paths are true, whether we walk them or others.
Yes, or stumble down them and stray left and right of the path.
There is
Seems
never
sometimes
mention
we're
of how one travels a path.
Right. Well, that's fine. I mean, is there anything else on your mind at the moment?
Stagger and this place, but perhaps questions for another day.
Well, if you're tired, I understand, and if you just want to hold that in until you feel ready to talk about more things, that's totally fine as well. I also have, some pretty big things weighing on my mind, but this book it's pretty interesting. It's helping me kind of distract from kind of coming up with things that I may need to say to my brother after not having seen him for I don't even know how many years now, and a lot of past and things in between it and now.
It was not an easy parting, then. Between you and your brother.
it sort of just happened. Him and my mother, and well, to be honest, he always had. I guess it's funny meeting you and having you impart your view of the world. It makes more sense. He always seemed to have a path before him, and it led him right to Helm. Funny that mine kind of ended up in a very roundabout way doing the same. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't. I just kind of left, trying to prove myself in a way, because he was so easily able to do so, at least with a calling, it seemed, and I had none. And well, you saw where that led me. You met me right towards the end of that chapter.
Did you prove it?
I don't know. I don't know if he even thought of me afterwards, to be quite honest. It would be interesting to find out that he did. I don't know how I'm going to feel about that meeting either. And I don't even know what became of our mother, to be fair. No one was in Port Quinn when I came back, so even if I had something to prove, I couldn't show it to anyone of importance. I'm going on far too long about this right now. I'm sorry. Another apology, I guess, in this conversation, but
I have who asked. You don't need to apologize.
Fair. I think I'm gonna do some more reading and kind of try to take my mind off it again. Maybe that distance will help me gain a better perspective.
I can expect you'll be ready to go early.
Oh, I mean, you know me now.
Wow, a joke from
like
Shay.
Laugh and chuckle. Huh?
A joke from Shay.
Yeah.
Second one of the campaign.
Was not ready for it, so I'm like, haha, yes. A joke. Right. Yes. I will be up before all of you. Forever. Potentially.
I'll leave you to it.
Alright, well, rest well. And to Chronic as well, and wherever Morrowind and Venture are.
Could, though, keep an ear out for Gunter.
Of course. I mean, I don't know what Gam means, but I assume if anything else he needs to say is loud and in his usual manner, it would be pretty easy to hear. I'll take a look and see where they got off to at some point this evening.
Yes, I just don't trust him with this dagger.
Well, you have it still, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, well, keep it safe for now. It's a good way to keep him around and behaving? Question mark. It's a thing at the end of a sentence, and it never mind. Sorry.
Yes, I'm aware of punctuation rules.
Okay. Not you.
They taught that at the monastery.
Come on, Tina.
Much to my chagrin.
All right. Well, yes. Good night, and I'll just slowly close the door, like nodding.
I'm already moving off.
Okay. Sure. So, Shay, you are going to bed?
Yes.
You may mark off a long rest. Heinrich, you, over the course of the evening, can mark off a long rest.
Can
Gunter,
I ask you things that I could do?
Sure, absolutely.
Before we end it, and this isn't something that we have to resolve now, obviously.
Sure.
But, maybe start of next one. Yes, read more, and also while reading, I have a spark of thought, being like, I wonder if in a place with so many books, he would remember or know anything about this particular book. And I pull out the bowl.
Sure.
And I'm gonna, make a call.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
I don't remember his name, honestly. I have it written down somewhere, but...
Boron.
Okay. I was gonna say... Boron. Yeah.
As you take the ornate bowl out, this beautiful stone bowl with arcane carvings, you fill it with water, and thinking about Boron, imagining this huge Goliath with a monocle and the deep blue, almost skin tight because of the musculature of this human, of this Goliath, this skin-tight lorebinder robes, and the water suddenly becomes opaque, almost this gray hue over it before it begins to sort of glow, a faint pulse coming from the water. And after about 3 or 4 of these pulses, suddenly there's like a shimmer, as if somebody dropped a stone in the middle, and you see before you a very tired, because it is the middle of the night.
I have no idea what time it is.
Of Boron, the lorebinder scholar who originally had kind of pointed you guys in this direction. And you can see as he rubs the sleep out of his eyes. Oh, we could do it now.
Okay, sure, perfect. All right, great.
I'm kind of picking the sleep out of his eyes. You call at a late hour. Is everything okay?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not know what time it was. There is no sky above us. We're currently within the mountain.
Within Kul Tiram. I'm glad that you made it safe.
Barely, which is why it took so long to call back. A lot of things happening, and if you remember our wonderful dwarven companion, a lot of crazy ideas that needed to be seen to their end.
Indeed.
I have a question about a book that I have found or come into possession of down here.
You can hear behind the bowl this kind of, and he straightens out, and you can see now kind of one of the few things that kind of catch his attention at this hour.
Right.
Yes.
So the book is in, I think, Elvish. I can, well, it's difficult to really describe, but I can read it. Anyways, it's called The Miner's Daughter. Does that ring a bell?
Are we speaking of a
fiction? But it seems to also be tied to, real world events, possibly. I'm not sure.
When you say miner, do you mean one who takes ore from the earth, or do you mean somebody young?
No. Miner, M-I-N-E-R. The someone who would, mine the earth.
Were there names or places or times referred to in this book?
Well, the two things that stuck out thus far, and I'm still reading it, but caught my attention, were Arista was the name of the heroine, and some location
Arista, the heavy hand.
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
And for some odd reason, my mind is just continually drawn to Kol Ersatz, if you're familiar.
I don't know of something by that name, but I could look into it. For Arista, the heavy hand, she was a hero to the dwarves. When they were held captive by the stone giants, she was the one who decided to break free. Is
this historical, or is this fictional?
Oh yes, there are many accounts of this, and as far as we know, she was real. I would imagine, much like a lot of history, things are exaggerated and things are lost over time. She lived, if she lived as she is written to have lived, roughly 500 years ago.
Older than Gunter.
Yes, she was a martyr to the dwarves' cause in attaining their freedom, and supposedly they built a city or a monument to her.
Well, I don't mean to trouble you currently any further, but if you could find any more information on that, I think we may have come into possession of a key, maybe, that relates to that somehow. I'm not sure. It's all as of today, and I just thought of you because, books and it's your passion, and world history and all that kind of stuff.
On the other end of the bowl, the head kind of tilt back and a huge yawn from this Goliath, and he nods and through the end of it kind of speaks. It's true, but it is late.
Yes, of course.
I will look into this. I will look into Arista. I will look into a key perhaps associated with her and see what I can come up with.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch tomorrow.
Appreciate it. I do. Thank you.
One of the few things that makes me glad to be disturbed this late into the night is the pursuit of knowledge. Good night. And the image back into just water.
Okay, and I'll return to reading the book, basically.
Sure. Meanwhile, Gunter and Morwen, about an hour after you fall asleep, you hear faintly this kind of as somebody knocks on the outside of the metal.
Ah! Who was it? Ah. I'm gonna. Who's that?
You can hear from the other end, very muffled. Actually, from the other side of this door, you would hear this kind of. This very kind of like mumbling sort of. I mean, this is a dense metal that this thing is made out of.
I'm gonna. Preparing a guiding bolt in case it's.
Fucking hell, dude.
I'm going to cautiously open the door to see who's.
I've got my rapier out like this.
Okay, so Morwen, a little bit
And
drunk,
sleeping.
slightly disheveled. Are you wearing the pajamas?
Yes.
Okay, so
Like,
the yellow sort of like pink smiley face pajamas on, holding up the rapier, and you cracking open the door, guiding bolt readied, which remember to mark that off, regardless of whether you use it, because you did ready it. On the other side of the door, you can see hair slicked back, similar to some of the dwarves that you'd seen before in this kind of pompadour style, very well dressed, immediately kind of hopping out. No armor on this individual. For a dwarf, roughly average size, you're looking at maybe 4'6", a little shorter than both of you. You can see in one ear these gold earrings, 8 of them, that kind of go up the entirety of the ear. There is this one remnants of a scar that goes across the right eyebrow. And he looks kind of at you, Gunter, and then over to Morwen. And his eyes focus on you, Morwen. I'm here for the tabaxi.
What?
I need somebody to sneak into the pillar of stairs.
Who are you?
My name. And he turns his attention to you now, Gunter. Is Grunvar Coldrot. And I've got a problem. That is where we're going to end for tonight.
I love that he's like, I'm here for that one, and I'm drunk in my pajamas.
Holding a rapier like...
You sure you want me, dude?
50-50 dramatic and ridiculous.
Gunter,
He's keeping a real straight face, but on the inside, he's like, I don't know.
He's like,
Gunter's like,
she really
getting
make
up
it
out
and
of
I
bed,
can't?
super grumpy because he's like, who just woke up? God, putting his slippers on to walk over to the door.
Great.
So that is where we're going to end for tonight. Thank you to all of you who tuned in to this very interesting session in which not a lot happened, but it was entertaining.
It was fun, though.
It was, yeah, exactly. That's
like
what it's all about.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. So maybe eventually the Finger Gang may leave the Undercity. We do not know. But this is where we're going to pick up next week with session, I think that's 34. Yeah, no, we've been playing for a while.
Crushing. Every week
so Das, Kobe, and Talon, I will send you guys codes for the free Hero Forge miniatures. Those will be in your private messages probably in the next 20 minutes or so. And for everybody else, and for the 3 of you, and for all of you, stay safe out there. It is crazy, and we'll see you next week.
In there.
Stay safe in there. Bye.
Bye.